THATSPIDERMANBOOTH.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gemcast episode 2, No Shoes in the Basement, aka Comic Talk in Socks. I'm your boy GemMint, and we have a special guest in the house, Dave, aka Boba Fatt.
What's going on? Thanks for having me, man.
Yo, thanks for making the trek out here.
No, it wasn't that bad. I liked it, man. I like to just cruise in the car.
Yeah.
And just as much as I love my wife and kids, it's nice to get in the car, just play music and just take in the scenery. So I enjoyed it.
Some alone time in the car.
Yeah, for sure.
You had like what, a 2-hour drive?
It was a little over 2 hours. I think it ended up being like 2 hours and 17 minutes, like to the T.
Okay.
So it wasn't too bad.
So I want to thank you for coming. We go way back.
No, for sure.
And we're going to get into all that stuff. And that's kind of my vision for the podcast. We have people on that I've known for years, people that you guys may know. Dave, they may not know as much from social media, but we're all here with common interests. We're collectors, we're readers, or what have you. So I want to kind of start at the beginning. Where did your love for comics start?
Oh, man. So I was super into the X-Men, and the comics didn't necessarily get me in right away. It was the 90s animated show that got me hooked on that. And then from there, I started getting the comics that were related to that series. So like reading, I wanted probably Jim Lee, right? Did the 90s
right?
original.
The Chris Claremont, Jim Lee.
Yeah, Claremont, Jim Lee.
When they went to
just,
like the unadjective X-Men title.
Yeah, that's like unfortunately, considering that everyone says that was a bad time for comics, like the 90s. Not so much storyline wise, but collector wise.
Right.
A lot of overprints and stuff, and like
1 million print counts on Spawn 1.
The death of Superman debacle. Like,
but what's funny is, see, now we're the late 30s, early 40-year-olds. So to us, I think a lot of that criticism came from like the generation before us.
Yeah, probably.
You know, and yeah, it's true that there was this huge bubble because of investor and speculation, which people will say is happening now as well.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting. A lot of us in this age range, we got into it via some other medium, whether it was like trading cards for me, but also the animated series, whether it's Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man. I mean, still the top 3, I think, comic book animated series for me that got us into it. But you're like me in the sense that it wasn't enough for you to just have the cartoon. It's like, where is this coming from?
Yeah, that's definitely, I definitely have an obsessive personality. Like, once I get into something,
Same.
It's all or nothing for me. But like, I'm into it. Like, all right, I gotta get as many X-Men comics now. Like, I need to know more about this character. Like,
exactly,
I just
because
go all in.
You mentioned Death and Return of Superman. If you guys caught the last podcast, that's one of the first stories that I've read.
Oh, nice.
But it was like the trading cards and all those other things, like we mentioned, the animated series, the video games, that made me want to learn more about these characters. I go into the comic shop, and it's like, man, it's so overwhelming. Where do you even start? The first appearances that I wanted to pick up from the back of the Marvel Masterpieces were like $40.
Right, and when you're a kid, like, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Like, you can't ask your parents for $40 for a comic book. So I picked up the trades, and that was one of them, the first ones I read. So you got into the Jim Lee X-Men run. See, X-Men, I always loved the characters, but the storylines were kind of confusing for me as a kid.
Yeah, they did get confusing. Like, I feel like they're kind of all over the place. Like,
a little bit adult themed, like almost like political, you would say.
For sure. I don't think that was an accident. I think they kind of wanted to tie in some adult, like, political themes really into the X-Men. So, I mean, really, that's what the X-Men always kind of was. I feel like was a notation on the people at the time.
Yeah, like the mutants.
Even the 60s,
the mutants were kind of like this thing that they were feared no matter what they did, or kind of thing like that. So yeah, so for 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, we were like super cool. This guy's got claws and laser beam eyes.
Right.
But then they kind of painted this more of adult theme behind him. Spider-Man was always more of an easier read for me. I felt like it was more relatable. Still had cool villains. I loved like the Goblin stuff and like the symbiote stuff. So X-Men for you.
Symbiotes will get you.
Oh yeah, symbiote.
That hooks any kid into Spider-Man. Like once you start getting into the symbiote stuff, oh my god, this is awesome. Like,
yeah, I loved Venom. I was a huge Venom fan, and then with Carnage and Maximum Carnage was another one of my early loves. And you were reading single issues, and you would really later on become more of a single issue collector.
Oh, for sure.
Now I met you, man. I think this has to go back.
I want to say because I relate everything to like my children's ages.
Right.
So when my first kid was just born, which he's now 9, is when I first started getting pretty heavy into following you on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, so that's like 2014.
Yeah. So I want to say that's like 10 years ago, 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting you say it too because we have 2 kids, and I had my first. She was born. I was 20. So every year that she was another year older. She's 1 now. I'm 21. She's 5 now. I'm 25. She's 10 now.
Easy to keep track of her age then.
Easy to keep track, but it kind of makes it go by super fast for you.
Dude.
But yeah, so you ended up following me on Instagram before the YouTube stuff started.
Oh yeah.
Back in the raffle days, I used to like to say. So I always kind of looked at you as like a key issue collector.
For sure.
And I know you have a basement too, where you have your stuff displayed.
Something like this, but definitely that's like my man cave.
But I used to look at your basement back before I had one, and I was envious of that. Like, damn, I just want like this sanctuary,
your own space. Yeah.
Because with the last place that we had, it was on the 2nd floor. I don't know if many people know that. You'd have to really go through the nuances.
Yeah. I don't think many people are looking up diagrams of your old house right now.
But I would do some skits and stuff where I'm like running down the stairs and everything. But being upstairs, and then it kind of overflew into the overflown. It would overflow into the loft, into the downstairs area, and I was like, man, I just want like
everywhere,
this place where I could shut the door and you would never even know it's there. Kind of always played it with the idea of doing like one of those bookcase doors. Yeah. But they seem to be pretty thick.
You gotta pull like the book out to open it.
So you got into comics, X-Men, 90s.
Yeah,
Did you stick with it the whole time, or
not really, to be honest?
Like me, I didn't.
I used to go to the comic book shop, and I would like again, I'd pick up the X-Men issues, and then that's what I found Spawn for the first time in the 90s. I'm like, whoa, what's this? And like started reading the first couple issues of Spawn, and I got hooked instantly on Spawn.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm a big fan of Spawn. I had like the toys, I had like the big Violator like toy.
Yeah, I used to
love
collect
the Violator,
all those.
dude. Violator was awesome.
Did it blow your mind? Did you ever see one of like the all gold variants?
Yeah,
I remember like seeing it at a friend's house, and I didn't even know this existed.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, what is this?
This is pre-internet days, right? Or maybe early AOL days.
Yeah.
But you would just find out about shit by just like walking into the store or seeing your friend with it or whatever. But yeah, I was the same way because I went in there looking for like Spider-Man comics or X-Men comics, but the Spawn comics on the shelves, that's what really caught my eye.
Yeah.
And I used to think it was all Todd McFarlane. I wouldn't even know until later on in life that it was Greg Capullo that was responsible for a lot of that stuff. Like, I don't know when he jumped on, but I think it was early on.
Yeah, it was pretty early, I think.
I want to say maybe even the 20s, the issues 20s or 30s or something like that. But shout out to Greg Capullo, man. Amazing artist, still doing it to this day, and Todd. But I also really liked the Spawn storyline because I would grab, like, I want to say from issue like 50 on, I was grabbing single issues, but I went back and got the trade paperbacks for the story. And it immediately spoke to me because whereas like X-Men was very like, oh, this is kind of like political and like they're like fighting against senators or whoever the hell.
Right? Sticking it to the man. Like.
Right, but then you had Spawn, which was like
gritty.
It was gritty, but it was like heaven and hell, and like the love of this guy for his wife, and comes back. Almost kind of, now that I think about it, it almost feels like what Robert Kirkman did with Walking Dead. Yeah, like you're gone for X amount of years, you come back, and your wife's with some other guy and has a kid and all that stuff. Sure. But Spawn did it first. But yeah, that combined with the art, and then like, I mean, you gotta love Spawn, man. Cool ass costume, the cape. Yeah,
now that I look back too, I didn't even know at the time when I was collecting, but super into that era of Spider-Man, like when the Venom, like like issue, what's the iconic issue 251 where it's got Venom on top of Spider-Man?
Yeah, what is it? 316.
McFarlane, who also did Spawn. When I was a kid, I didn't even put those two together. Like I didn't really pay attention to the artists and stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I just looked at what I looked at, and
I think we're
never caught my eye. And then looking back, it's like, whoa, this is both by McFarlane. How ironic. Like,
we're similar in that sense. I always followed the characters, and I never was one of those to like realize it was the same writer or the same artist. Yeah. But looking back and connecting the dots was super fun. Like, oh, no wonder I liked all this shit. Yeah. Because this was the same guy that did all of that. And then it wouldn't even be, I think, until I started this channel where I started to really follow the artist. Like,
Yeah.
oh, damn, Mark Bagley. I always loved all the Mark Bagley Spider-Man stuff. Or I like how Eric Larson did this following up.
Yeah, I feel like how I am now as an adult. I follow the writers because I have a big writing background, so I like the writing. Like I would start collecting. I'm like, oh, I literally like this issue. I'm gonna go see what else this guy wrote, and I would just read all this stuff. Like Brian K. Vaughan, for instance. I read Saga.
Right.
I love Saga.
Yeah.
So I went back and read Why the Last Man, which is one of my favorites now. Like I love Why the Last Man.
Man, that's what I loved about the omnibus and like absolute edition format, because I was the same way. Like I loved Saga. Not the first time I read it. I gave it a few issues and it didn't immediately hook me, but then I did a reread of it, which is a good point to people who might give up on something. You know, give it a chance. And I loved it, and I did go and then read Why the Last Man and the absolute editions. A lot of these epic storylines I experienced for the first time in like the most prestige format, which was cool too, because it wasn't like a single issue comic. It's this large, huge thing. And that's actually something I did. We have a lot of similarities in that sense.
One of the things that sucks about that is as you get older, because you're getting into something a little bit later, it was hard for me to track down singles for like Why the Last Man. So I did, and I have a problem with, I'll buy a trade of something first, and then I'll read the trade or Absolute or whatever it is, and then if I really like it, then I'll go back and double dip, and I'll collect the singles. So like Why the Last Man, I have all the Absolute or the trades, whatever they made for them, but then I also have all the single issues. Like I got both. Yeah,
so being in that like collected edition community for a while, that tends to be a lot of people's like safe way. Let me trade it out first, and if I like the trade, then I'll maybe, you know, unlike people like me that was just blindly buying everything.
Yeah, right.
But luckily, I always kind of felt like if they made an absolute edition of it, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, they would
do it for stuff that, you know,
for just some crap. But then again, it depends on what your taste is, whether or not it's for you or not.
Too.
But I've always had like a pretty broad palette when it comes to comics. I can like something super like gritty, like The Boys, but then I can appreciate something like Why the Last Man. Okay, put me in this place where people can no longer have male children, right? And then like what happens to society. I just always kind of felt like they rushed the ending of that book.
No, for sure they did.
Like from one issue to the next, it's like, all right, 15 years later.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah.
And
That's kind of what I feel like Robert Kirkman though did with The Walking Dead. I feel like out of nowhere he just thought, oh, by the way, this is gonna be the last issue. Everyone's like,
yeah, that kind of sucks.
I think he was just kind of over it though, to be honest.
He was doing it for so long.
Yeah.
But what I appreciated about the Robert Kirkman era is that I found Invincible later on through the hardcovers.
I read it after Walking Dead.
But to see him have success with Walking Dead, which came after Invincible, but then to go back and revisit it because it was such a great story.
Yeah.
Invincible is like, to me, like the comic version of a manga, where you can start at issue 1. It has a definitive beginning, middle, and end. And you don't have like these different kind of reboots and Elseworlds tales. But the fact that they were able to go back to that and then make an animated series, which is successful.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a live action thing.
Oh, are they? I didn't know if they were for sure doing that.
I heard rumors of it. I could be wrong.
Like everything's getting a live action something now. Who knows if it's true?
Whether it's going to make money or not.
Yeah, right. That's all it's about.
This episode of the Gemcast is brought to you by THATSPIDERMANBOOTH.com. If you're into single issues, modern comics, you got to check out their subscription box. They give you 5 comics, $100 retail value, either store exclusives, ratio variants, or just regular variants. Plus, you get a variant that is exclusive to this box, meaning you can't get it anywhere else, only for subscribers of the fan box. And they have a ton of other perks as well. Check out THATSPIDERMANBOOTH.com and sign up for that subscription box. So you had like a lapse in comics. Is that kind of like me in a sense? Like when you get into high school, like your focus shifts to other things?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Because in high school, I was always a nerd in high school. I was in the chess club and I was in the Latin club.
Did you see me playing chess on my phone?
I didn't even know you played chess.
So I played chess with a friend of mine, social chess.
Oh, nice.
I was actually gonna put a call to action out in like the Facebook group. Like if you guys play chess, download this app and we could play.
Yeah, I'm so out of practice.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how to play at this point, but yeah.
So you were in the I was in the chess club too.
Yeah, I was in the chess club. I was in the Latin club.
Okay.
And like, me being a big dude, like the coaches were always like, "Oh, be my linebacker." And I'm good, man. I got chess club.
So big for nothing now.
Yeah.
So then you got into that. What brought you back?
And music too. I was into music. I played the drums too. I was in a lot of like local bands in high school and a little bit after high school. So getting into that scene kind of phased me away, and then of course girls will do that to you too.
Yeah, me too. I think it was girls
got me away from comics.
Getting into music. I was into like 90s era music, so new metal, but I was heavy into rap. Probably more rap than rock.
Yeah.
Like alt rock and new metal was kind of like my guilty pleasure.
I see you as like a Bone Thugs type of person.
Bro, Bone Thugs and Harmony is my favorite band of all time.
Bone Thugs, Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang, I always wanted to get into because I always liked. All right, follow me down this path real quick. Bone Thugs and Harmony and Wu-Tang felt to me like TMNT. It felt like Power Rangers. Like you have this group of people that are all kind of similar, similar look, similar style. They form together. They have this super group. But I couldn't really get into Wu-Tang past like the singles. Yeah. Like I loved Triumph. I loved all the singles off of 36 Chambers, but a lot of the album cuts, I could appreciate it more as an adult. But with Bone, I was a Bone Thugs nerd. Oh, for like sure. I got all of the Mo Thugs albums, Poetic Hustlers, all like the offshoots. And I was like, printing out the lyrics and making a binder of like I was a nerd too in a different kind of sense, but huge still to this day. That's like awesome. My Spotify raps got Bone Thugs on it. Like yeah. But I was super into that. I grew up in an area where it wasn't really cool to like rock music. So that's why I say it was more of a guilty pleasure. But going back now, like my playlist is 90s hits, man. Yeah. Whatever genre, you pick the genre, we could do a shuffle and get crazy. I was never musically inclined though to like play instruments. But
I went to my high school like tryouts for like the band class there. And they do like this little rudimentary like drum thing to see if like you'd be okay for it. Yeah, I totally failed it. Yeah, and I just say screw them. I don't care what they say. I'm just gonna teach myself how to play drums.
But you have to have rhythm for that.
Oh, for sure.
And cadence
and it's weird though because like at first I tried to play the bass guitar and I couldn't get my fingers to coordinate. Like I'd hold one string and pluck another string. Yeah. For some reason it's different when it comes to my feet and my hands. Like I can coordinate my feet and hands.
My brain can't comprehend how to play musical instruments.
Dude, that's the thing. It was a struggle. Like later in life when I would meet these guys who were like took music theory and like were very serious about their music. I couldn't even read sheet music. I just everything was by ear for me. Like I want you to tune this drum to a B flat. I go I don't know what that is. Like I just play them. Like
no. That's all sounds foreign to me, man. Yeah. And I've held a guitar. Like we bought our daughter a guitar.
I've seen one once.
Yeah, and like you're holding this and you're plucking that, like, and then chords and to sing at the same time.
No way,
bro. How the hell do these guys do that?
I can't even barely walk and breathe at the same time. I don't know how people play and sing. It's like being a drummer. Even like there's drummers that sing while they drum. Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
That's crazy, man.
I couldn't do it.
So, so you had more of that was more of your influence. So, what were some of your favorite bands?
Oh, I'm a huge Slipknot fan. I hate to be cliche, but
I never got into Slipknot.
Into Slip, dude.
They were always too heavy for me.
I made the mask and I would like wear them and like I was so into it. Like I'd paint my fingernails black. And
So you were all about it.
When I had hair, it was like a little bit longer on my shoulders. I'd dye my hair like red and stuff.
Oh, so you were all into it. I was
super into Slipknot.
I do like the kind of like cosplay nature of those types of bands. Like when I remember Gwar from Beavis and Butthead.
Oh yeah.
And it's like the stage presence and even Kiss. Have you seen recently? Are you a Kiss fan at all?
I'm not against Kiss,
but yeah, I mean they're a little bit.
Go out of my way to listen to them, but
did you see them? They recently did their last live show ever.
Oh, really?
But now they have this whole new thing where they're remade like holograms, and it's kind of like this live show, kind of like how they did with Tupac.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because now Gene Simmons, they have like glowing red eyes and these crazy wings that come out of them and stuff.
I'll have to check that out.
It's pretty cool to see what they've done.
Yeah.
So Slipknot was the main band.
Yeah, Slipknot. I listened to a lot of Korn.
I liked Korn. Freak on a Leash. So then you had the connection with Korn and Todd McFarlane. Yeah. Doing the video for Freak on the Leash and doing the album art and everything.
Again, didn't even make that connection when I was younger. Like it wasn't until later in life that I realized that.
I feel like I did know at the time in high school. I think somehow I kind of followed Todd because I was such a Spawn fan. But and then it looked so much like the Spawn animated series where it was like, damn, this looks so familiar. And I feel like I saw it on MTV or something. Kurt Loder must have reported.
When they actually played music videos.
They really ran that shit to the ground.
Yeah. Now there's like MTV3, which doesn't even play music videos.
So MTV1 is ridiculousness.
Yeah, pretty much.
MTV2 is like a Teen Mom or whatever.
Yeah, or they do like those the real world like challenge videos. My wife's super into those. They do all these challenges.
I never got into Real World Road Rules.
I did early. I actually submitted a tape to Real World.
Really?
And I wish I could find it, man, because it's funny. It was me, because my whole take on it was like, again, being a big dude, I'm like, you guys say this is the real world. Not once have I seen an overweight person on there. You need to get a real world person in it. And I was like, really into my video, man. Like, and I sent it to him.
That's funny.
Obviously, never got
picked. Yeah, they always pick.
You always see like these fit like models. That's not the real world.
Washboard abs, right? Good looking.
I'm Casey. Like,
yeah, this isn't the real world. Let's get some fat guys in there.
Right? That'd be real.
Speaking of which, I always loved your IG handle, Boba Fatt.
Dude, I don't even know how I came up with that. And it was just a play on obviously Star Wars.
Boba Fett.
Star Wars fan. But it's funny how many, because that's still like my gamer tag and stuff. And my son, who played on my Xbox when I first got it, he originally was playing under my gamer tag, which was Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And he's since changed it, but some of his friends still call him Boba because they relate to him because they're super into Rocket League and stuff. So he plays on there and they'll call him Boba, which I think is cool. He doesn't think it's cool because he's like, Dad, why'd you come with Boba Fett? He's like, oh, it's lame.
Top tier internet tag for me, Boba Fett. Love that, man.
Yeah.
All right, so we get through high school years. So what brings you back into comics? When does that happen?
I honestly didn't get like heavy back into it until I got with my wife and my first son was being born. And just out of the blue, I decided I was going to buy my first slabbed comic book off eBay. I never owned a slab up until that day. And I pulled the trigger on a random, like, it was I think it was Spider-Man 252. It was like
black suit.
Black suit. I just wanted to own something that was like iconic in a CGC slab, because I never owned one.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get into that.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake, because
So
the wallet just got thinner and thinner ever since. So
mine's kind of similar. So for me, when I got a job, I worked for the power company. Shout out Florida Power and Light. I worked there for 15 years.
Yeah.
From South Florida. Well, I was born in Jersey, but my parents moved down. I was 1 year old. Anyway, so I'm at my computer. And funny enough, like the back of those Marvel Masterpieces, if you guys know the 1992 Joe Jusko set, it's what got me into comics. The back of them would show either the first appearance or first cover appearance. So when I went into the comic shop as a kid to try to buy those to learn more about these dope-ass cards, finding out they're too expensive and getting into trades. But when I had my like a regular adult job, I must have been like my mid-20s at the time. I go to eBay, because now I learn about eBay.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, I think my first eBay purchase was like Mortal Kombat Trilogy for PlayStation. Nice. Fucking love Mortal Kombat.
I don't even know what mine would be then.
What, your first eBay
purchase? I never thought of that one.
I wish they didn't purge it out, because I think they do purge out.
Yeah.
This was like over 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But then I started picking up key issues off eBay, and I would buy like ASM 316, ASM 300, and ASM 252.
Yeah.
And then I would actually learn about comics sitting at my cubicle and like buying keys and figuring out, oh shit, Secret Wars 8 is not the first appearance of the black suit. It's actually ASM 252, but it wasn't intended to be. And then I found the CGC forums.
Like, I didn't even know all that until I started getting and just do research. I want to make sure, because you're spending that kind of money on a book.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm actually getting something that's a first appearance or whatever, because I'm not knowing at the time. I'm like, so I had to do the research. I'm like, which is the first appearance of the black suit?
Yeah, so that's like me. I learned a lot of my comic knowledge because I was buying keys and I was searching and learning more about it. The first book I ever submitted to CGC was Secret Wars 8.
Nice.
And it came back in 9.2.
See, mine was actually the first appearance of Angela for Spawn. That was the first one I ever
Spawn 9.
I still have it, actually. Just because that was the first book I ever decided, like, I'm going to get this graded because I've had this book forever.
Yeah.
And it came back like a 9.6, which I was happy. And it's pretty white cover, too. Like,
yeah, Secret Wars 8 was my first slab. Nice. And what happened was, so I was collecting these key issues just off of characters that I liked, villains that I liked. And then I found out about CGC. And I think I happened, maybe like you, I stumbled upon one on eBay, and what I loved about it was like the keynotes on the label.
Yeah.
Like, damn, this one tells you what this is. This is the first appearance of so and so.
In my eyes, it was kind of like bragging rights. Like, look at this. Look what I got. Like,
so then I submitted that first one. Then I submitted all these keys that I had been accumulating of buying off eBay raw books. And I remember looking at like the grades that they were estimating. Like, oh, VF is 150. Near mint, they want 300. I'm good with a VF.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I would submit them, and I got lucky on a lot of them. Like, I bought a raw New Mutants 98. Came back a 9.8.
That's awesome.
And I think I bought it for like $150, and then I sold it for like $450. And that's what got me into the person that you know, which I started flipping books, man, because I was like, you're telling me you could buy these raw books.
Make money off this?
All you got to do is get it graded, and now it's worth 4 times the amount.
Yeah.
That blew my mind, man. And the big thing for me was I worked at the power company, so did my wife. We had 2 young kids. You know, we didn't have a lot of money. We were living paycheck to paycheck. How do I buy all this shit that I want to buy? You know, I want to buy things that I think are cool, but I don't want to use my hard-earned paycheck.
Right.
I remember like when I first started getting a lot of packages in, my wife got pissed. She was like, yo, I feel like I'm working and you're working, but you're buying all these things that you want.
Yeah.
So then I started selling things, and then once the money started coming in from that, she was like, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, their tone changes real quick. You're selling them, and you got all that money coming in.
You seem to know what you're doing. Keep it up. And I was on Instagram. I started an Instagram. First of all, I had a personal Instagram.
Yeah.
I would post a picture. I would get like 3 likes. My mom, my wife, and like I think myself. And then I submitted a picture to this Instagram account. It was like superhero shirts. Because I was always into like the graphic tee gang, especially when I would lose weight. Because I've been a big guy myself my whole life too.
Yeah.
But I've had a couple of times in life where I've lost weight. And I was like, yo, now I could wear fucking graphic tees, man. And I submitted the picture to them, and they're still around. They actually recently...
What was the name of it?
Superhero. I love superhero shirts or superhero T-shirts or some shit.
I was always getting my stuff off 80s tees because they have a lot of graphic tees like that.
I would buy, like, around the holidays, like around this time, working at FPL, 80s tees having a free shipping sale if you spent more than $75.
Yeah.
And I would get, like, a ton of tees. But anyway, I submitted this picture of me wearing an X-Men 1 tee, and they posted it, and it got like 150 likes. Nice. And I was like, oh, shit. So then I started my own comic book channel or Instagram, and I was trying to figure out what to call it. I was like, well, I collect all these slabs now, and I'm collecting 9.8s. Let me just call it like 9.8. But maybe I'll spell it like 9 and then do a point and then spell out 8. Or maybe I'll do like the number 9 and spell out point and do the number 8.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, damn, if I'm going to call it 9.8, maybe we might as well be the best grade you can be. And let's call it GemMint.
Right.
So that's where I started that, and I started posting my books and getting a lot more traction. I guess I found a community online. Hey, how did you stumble upon?
That's what it's all about. I don't know, to be honest. Honestly, I think it was a buddy of mine who was a tattoo artist. He did a couple of my tattoos for me in Chicago, and he was telling me, "Oh yeah, you can get these books, on Instagram. Just go on." And I think he gave me your name as one of them. It was you and
shout out to that tattoo artist.
Yeah, a couple different people. That he gave me. Yours was one of them, and I just started following you. And then for a while, I would just kind of sit back and just watch them. Didn't really get into it. And then like I got into one and got into another, and right off the bat, I was just losing like crazy, which is like turning me off. Like shit, man, I ain't winning anything. And then the very first one I got was a first appearance of Harley Quinn.
Oh, BA12.
Yeah, and then again, not to be blasphemous, but I'm not a huge DC fan.
No, I hear you.
Instantly flipped that one and just use that to fund more stuff. And
so I think we're being a little bit vague on purpose. So on Instagram, I went from like showing off my collection, and I've always been this guy. Like once I kind of had my eyes on something else, I'm willing to sell everything I have.
Yeah.
And I found a unique way to sell books on Instagram, which I kind of was really known for. So, you could put two to the... I'm not going to incriminate myself, but basically people were able to get key issues for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, donations.
Yeah. You could figure it out yourself. But, a lot of people started careers off of that or became known who they are.
That really boosted my collection, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to win an $800 book for like $40 or something, and taking that and flipping it and buying something that you really like. I was always a big... proponent of that. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Man, do whatever makes you happy with it. If selling this book gets you what you really wanted, that
you wouldn't be pissed off. It's like, oh, this guy got this book and he's selling it. Like, bro, whatever. It's your book now.
I would probably encourage it more than anything. Yeah.
Well,
so
you always say, fund your own hobby. I mean,
make the hobby fund itself was my thing. Sorry, butchered my catchphrase.
Sorry.
But
you don't have it up anywhere, like.
Yeah, I know. I never really did anything with it. I said it in a couple of videos. Maybe I should make T-shirts or something like that. Yeah,
get it copyrighted.
Comment below. Should we do make the hobby fund itself T-shirts for the Gemcast?
It's a good thing to live by, though. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing now, to be honest. Like, because now I'm moving my focus. Long story short, after losing my job, I'm really pushing my videography that I'm doing.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's cool. It happens.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like it was a blessing because it's pushing me more into doing what my passion is.
Yeah.
And so now I'm selling books like to fund something else that I'm passionate about.
So you built up your collection, and you have like a single issue collection. What do you got, like 5,000 books?
Yeah, I got around 5,000. Yeah.
And it's mostly what, like Marvel, X-Men?
It's honestly, up until recently, I had the entire run of X-Men. That was my goal in life.
Like 1 through what, 700
or 544?
Is that what it is? Yeah.
And I got every single one of them in the matter of like 6 years. I did it.
Yeah. And you had X-Men 1 and all that.
Yeah, and that wasn't even the last one I got. I got that one honestly on Instagram.
Yeah.
But that wasn't even the last one. It was like some random, like I think it was like issue 25. It was like a Hulk appearance in the X-Men. It was the last X-Men issue I got.
Damn.
And that was at C2E2 a couple of years ago. And now I had the whole run. Again, I sold a couple of them already, but it's whatever.
So that's actually what got that's what kind of got me into Omnibus, because when I was buying these books off eBay, I'll never forget the person I'm playing chess with. We worked together.
Okay.
Shout out to Saab. And I remember sitting at the lunch table with him and being like, man, I want to get the whole run of Wolverine. I want to buy the whole run of Wolverine in single issues and I never really pursued it. I think it was shortly after that I found Omnibus in the local comic shop, Past, Present, Future, West Palm Beach. And I quickly ditched the single issue idea because of the omnibus.
I think it depends on what your goal is too. Because I'll be totally honest, I love reading the comics. Don't get me wrong, but I'm very much a collector as well. I'll be the first person to say I've maybe read 30% of the books I own.
No, that's like me. I did a whole video about that.
I get more excited about the collecting of them. Like when I was younger, I collected Pokemon cards. Couldn't tell you how to play the Pokemon card game.
Right.
But I collected them all, I'm a collector is what I go. I'm into pops, comics.
I always hated that phrase, comic books were meant to be read.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with that.
No, I do too.
I feel like comic books were meant to be read. They were meant to be collected. They were meant to be graded.
Whatever you want to do with
them. They were meant to be sold. I mean, there would be no LCSs if collectors, I mean, if you own a comic shop, 9 times out of 10, they were a collector first.
Yeah, absolutely.
And either they wanted to sell their own stuff or just be immersed in comics. But I think comics are meant to be read, but that's not the only thing they're meant to be read, or not the only thing they're meant to do for you. Because I think we're very similar in that sense. I was always a collector first, but I was kind of like, man, being obsessive about it. Like, okay, I'm collecting all this Spider-Man shit. I need to know more. Yeah. I want to read the stories.
No, definitely.
I've seen the movies. I played the video games. Watched the animated.
The underwear.
Yeah, got the socks. But so I did read, and then with Omnibus, I think more people relate to the buying everything up and not reading as much than people that buy and just read everything they buy.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of FOMO too, because I know, again, prices fluctuate on all these books. It's like, well, this is a good price, I better cap it now before it goes up, and then I'll just read it when I have time.
Yeah, with the omnibus
but then
format,
you just never catch up on your read list.
Yeah, and I think that happens with people who even buy weekly comics. You always hear this story of, I'm so behind.
I used to organize this is my 2 read stack, and then it got too big, it would start falling over, so I had to just put them in a box, and then I feel like it's even harder to get to read them because now they're boxed.
When you're boxed up.
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, same with the omnibus stuff. It's like, I mean, look, you got a pile of 4 books that came in. It's like, man, you know how long it's going to take to read 4 omnis? But with the omnibus, I always looked at it like the retirement plan. Not in the sense that I'm going to sell them, but like, okay, when I'm done, it's all said and done. I can sit back and read whatever I want. Now, whether or not that actually happens, it's a nice thought to have.
It's a good plan.
It's a good plan. If you guys are looking to pick up any collected editions, whether they're omnibus, absolutes, trade paperbacks, whatever, you got to check out organicpricebooks.com. Not only do they have a wide selection of in-stock items, but you can also pre-order new omnis so that you don't catch the FOMO and you don't miss out on that direct market cover. Also, if you use code GemMint, it'll save you $2 on every order. Not a lot of money, but every dollar helps. So check out organicpricebooks.com. So you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned writing. So expand on that a little bit.
So I've always been into, honestly, comics is what got me into writing initially, but I've always liked telling stories like verbally. Like I would always tell stories to people all the time, and I'm super talkative and outgoing person in school. And then I ended up going to school for it, actually. I went to Columbia College, Chicago, and I studied writing and directing for film there. And just... it's just something I do always for fun, and I tried to make it a career, and still am. As of right now, it's just something I do as a hobby, and I just pretty much write anything. I write comics, I write kids stories, poems. I've wrote a couple full-length scripts even that I got sitting on.
So I don't think I've ever told anybody here, but we wrote a comic together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it started. That's for sure.
So I guess we wrote a script for a comic.
Yeah, I think we got a nice foundation.
So I guess we could talk about it here a little bit. So I had this idea. When was this, bro? This was 2020. I don't even
know, because I went back and looked at some emails after you reached out to me for coming to this.
Yeah.
And that was like 2 years ago. I want to say 2022 or
2021
maybe.
So we had
this 2 years ago.
We had a meeting, like Google Hangouts or whatever, and it's unlisted on the channel now. We could always go back and see what it was. But we had a meeting. And I had this idea. It was kind of inspired from Ancient Aliens. Yeah. And it was the idea that humans worship these gods, but these gods were really extraterrestrials. And so I didn't really have a story, but I had an idea.
Yeah, you had an idea.
What if these aliens were what if all the advancements in human technology were just like accidents from these aliens that were just kind of more human than not, coming down here to party, or coming down here to just kind of be,
or just dumb randomness, really,
leaving behind a wheel, or fucking around and inspiring, something that leads to the internet. So I had this idea for like the main character was like what Zeus Odian or something like that, because when he goes here and he tells them their name, they just hear Zeus.
Yeah.
But when he goes over
But
here,
it relates to like the historical, like how they, Zeus and Odin were technically the same person,
same guy but different names.
Whatever you follow,
Right.
Don't want to get too into the religious part of it.
Oh yeah. But it's kind of like how did humans interpret this being?
And that's a big theme though of the ancient aliens. Like these people back in the day, when they saw something in the sky, they didn't know what they were looking at. They thought it was the gods.
A chariot.
To them, a chariot was a flying saucer.
Right.
That's what these ancient aliens people think, at least. Which I watch that show all the time.
So we had this idea. Maybe we could revisit it. Maybe people watching this say, "Hey, that's something I'd be into." But I kind of wanted to also make it like not superhero-y, but like these characters, these aliens, kind of had like these names and designs to where they're memorable.
Yeah.
The thing I always not hated, but the thing I always disliked about indie comics was like you never really remembered the characters much.
Yeah.
Even like we talk about Why the Last Man, like Yorick. Do you really remember much of Yorick?
Yeah.
It was just like a regular dude. And I miss the days of, I guess you can call it the Image 90s days where they were indie books, but they were superhero. Wildcats, Youngblood, Spawn even. And we don't really have much of that in indies these days.
Sure, yeah. I feel like indies have gone away from the whole superhero thing, which is kind of affected the way I read books too. Like I can't remember the last like current Marvel thing I've read, to be honest. I still collect a lot of Marvel stuff. But when it comes to what I read, I find myself reading a lot of like stuff from Image and like Boom. And, just the independent stuff like catches my attention more as far as reading goes.
So do you still read often?
Yeah, not too often as of lately. The last thing I read that I got really into was Kill or Be Killed.
Oh, I didn't even read that.
It's good, man. It's I think it's like 25 issues. It's real short, but it's really good.
I was reading single issues for like 3 years straight, right? I was doing like pretty much every big title from the big two and from the indies, but I just kind of took a break from it. This whole year, I haven't really read much except for the Energon universe. I've been keeping up with that stuff. Have you been reading that?
No,
Transformers.
No.
So Robert Kirkman drops his book Void Rivals out of nowhere. And at the end, it was a spoiler, but not anymore. Yeah. But at the end, they tease that this is part of the Transformers universe.
Okay.
But it's also
so you
part
don't know that when you're first reading it?
No.
Then? Okay, I didn't know that.
And if I recall, the way that he dropped the book with Void Rivals, I don't know that it was like something. Was it not solicited or something? Like it just because it was like a silent launch.
Yeah.
And then you figure out that it ties into Transformers, and then you figure out that also ties into G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
So now you have this Energon universe with Void Rivals, which have you heard of it at all? Or
well, so just recently, I haven't seen the new Transformers movie, but someone just say, "Oh, you should see it. They're going to tie it to G.I. Joe or whatever."
But that doesn't tie into Void Rivals.
Okay.
So it's funny because the movie universe is tying Transformers and G.I. Joe together.
Now, do you think he's doing that on purpose to future facilitate film, or you think he's
I don't
actually?
know. I don't. I mean,
that's what I feel like sometimes it's being done a lot these days. Is like people are writing comics.
They're writing
in hopes
scripts
of it being scripts later.
Exactly.
That's why they're not focusing so much on the comics anymore.
I don't know if it was.
I don't want to say not everyone's doing it, but you know what I mean.
No, for sure. I don't know if it was a coincidence. I mean, it seems like a hell of a coincidence, but Void Rivals is strictly to the comics, and it's basically these two races out in outer space. They're rival civilizations, and they come together, and then they find out that they're closer than they think.
Okay.
Without giving too much spoilers. But then you find out that Transformers exist here. I think they stumble upon Jetfire or something like that.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, man, it's dope. And
I
then
love Transformers.
And then Transformers, Daniel Warren Johnson is doing crazy stuff, like killing off a main Transformer in issue 1, declaring that they are not planning to bring them back whatsoever. And then G.I. Joe, the tie-in to G.I. Joe was great because it's super realistic. Like Duke sees a Transformer in real life. And it's like, how would a human react?
To that?
How would like an army guy react who's kind of like lived his life by the book? He's been an upstanding soldier his entire life. And then this thing like just fucks with his whole world.
Yeah.
And he's like,
dang, I'm gonna get into that
now. And they're kind of gaslighting him like, nah, you didn't really see that. And now he's kind of like,
did I see it?
Not even that. He's kind of more like AWOL.
Yeah.
He's like AWOL, and you go from like this stand-up soldier to like this conspiracy theorist kind of.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool, man, and
I like that.
So I really like what they're doing with that. But yeah, I was saying because before I took this kind of 1 year hiatus, I was picking up everything, and the indies were always my favorite reads out of the pile. the Marvel DC, the Marvel stuff was always the biggest disappointment, man. To be honest.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the last thing I feel like I enjoyed reading was Hickman's introduction of the new X-Men.
I loved it,
but then it kind of faded out.
Oh man, they. So the thing was Hickman
Which
Krakoa
I think
era.
they just ended that era. Now they're getting ready to start a new one, right?
Yeah, and it already looks like it's not too promising. I recently read original X-Men #1, hoping this was going to be like a new jumping on point, but it was really a one shot leading into this multiverse story, which nobody wants multiverse anymore,
Yeah, it's
right?
too much to follow.
And it's too like no stakes. When you have no stakes, already in this one shot, there's like 3 versions of Jean Grey in it.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, who gives a shit, right?
That's the thing right now, apparently.
So, yeah, the Krakoa era, what happened was Hickman had this vision, but it was very broad, right? So then it spawned off all these other titles, but then you had all these other writers come in. And
Yeah. I liked it at first because I think he had like 3 major titles he had with that started. It was like showing the 3 different timelines of the X-Men, like how they tied together. I was into that, and then like you said, different writers came onto it.
Yeah.
They started like getting like X of Swords and X of.
Oh yeah.
That's when I just started like, there's too many. It's too much to take in now.
Yeah, because before you know it, there's like 15 ongoing X titles, and they're not really good.
Yeah. There was Excalibur, the New Mutants. They started doing all kinds of ones.
Yeah, and then when you realize that these aren't really important to the main thing, it was too much. It was kind of ambitious, but I really liked what he did with House of X, Powers of 10.
Oh yeah,
like that's still a
that's
solid
what I was talking
read.
about. That was the first one.
Yeah, for sure. And I love Donny Cates, man. The Donny Cates stuff, like everything he touched, whether it was his stuff on Thanos, his
Immortal
Venom. Well, that was Al Ewing.
Oh, I thought didn't Kate? Oh no,
Cates ended up doing the follow up run to that.
Of, Thanos and Guardians, right?
He did a Guardians run. I think the Guardians run was like the weakest one out of all those big things he did.
Yeah,
because
was that when he did the Cosmic Ghost Rider?
So he did Cosmic Ghost Rider in the Thanos run.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So he didn't even start the Thanos run. I feel like Cosmic Ghost Rider came in
later. I think it came like issue 18. I want to say.
I wanted to say 13. It's something in the teens. Yeah, for sure. But Cosmic Ghost Rider, even though he's like a goofy character, it was kind of a dope premise because
I thought it was cool.
What was it? It was Frank Castle.
Yeah, it was Frank Castle. He had the Penance Stare, and he had the cosmic whatever they call it that the Silver Surfer possessed, like the
power
Herald.
cosmic.
Yeah,
so he had the Spirit
power,
of Vengeance. He had the power cosmic. Somehow he like outlived all of the Marvel heroes.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he pretty much gets like bored of being like this overpowerful being,
which is why he goes insane and becomes like Deadpool.
Yeah.
So you have like this Ghost Rider, Deadpool, Punisher.
I thought it was awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I thought it was because everything he does. I think my boy Rockin' Robbie was like, Donny Cates scripts are like if you're a drunk guy at a bar and you're like, all right, what if this happens? But I think with his Hulk run, it didn't really stick.
Yeah, I got super into some of Cates' independent stuff too that he did.
Oh, Vanish.
Like I watched, and Redneck.
People love Redneck. I never read it.
Cool. I like the vampire stuff. That's cool.
Was that what it was like?
What was I can't remember the name of the one he did too.
Crossover.
This chick that's like pregnant, like with like the devil's baby.
Oh, Baby Teeth.
Yeah,
Baby Teeth was super dope,
that's
man.
Cool too.
So I actually read that in a hardcover.
She finds out she's given birth to like the spawn of Satan,
the
or something
Antichrist,
crazy,
man.
Yeah.
But it's her
stuff.
kid, and she loves it, and it's like she wants to protect it, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Now Donny Cates is it's a shame he got into a bad car accident and he had memory loss and he's gone through personal problems and I actually had an interview with Donny Cates back in the day.
Oh, nice.
But he got mad at me because he was doing I think he was doing Inhumans. And I brought up the fact like, hey, isn't Marvel kind of like leaning into this because they don't have the X-Men rights? And he got pissed.
Oh man,
he was like, "That's not true. This and that."
Everyone loves the Inhumans.
I'm pretty sure it was true though.
No, it was.
But still, he was a great writer. But when I would read DC stuff, DC was putting out a lot of stuff I liked, a lot of stuff that I stood clear from, knowing that hey, this is not for me whatsoever. But it was really heavily relying on Batman titles.
Yeah.
So many Batman titles.
I'll be first to admit, I love Batman, but my knowledge of anything DC strictly comes from any animation shows or TV or movies.
I can see that.
And then also, I played a lot of the Batman video games.
The Arkham
so a lot of my
series.
Batman knowledge came from those video games. I don't really know a whole lot about the books when it comes to DC. The only DC stuff I ever got into was like Justice League Dark. I really like Swamp Thing and Constantine.
Man, I love Swamp Thing.
I do own some Constantine DC comics in my collection.
I learned a lot of Batman going back and reading Absolute Editions, reading all like the monumental stories, because that's what they did right with the Absolute Editions.
Yeah.
You're going to get Dark Knight Returns. You're going to get Hush. You're going to get even Court of Owls, which I read that in single issues.
Yeah, I ended up going to my local comic shop, just asked them because I wanted to get into Batman. I said, "What should I get?" So I ended up buying the Long Halloween, the Absolute.
Oh, Jeff Loeb Tim
It's
Sale.
still in plastic though. It was like 3 years ago I bought it. I want to read it.
The Jeff Loeb Tim Sale. First of all, you might as well get the omnibus at this point, which has all 3 of their stories they did. Okay. Long Halloween, was it Dark Victory? Damn, I can't even remember the other one. But very accessible. Jump right into it. You don't need to know.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I asked the guy at the shop. I said, "What's something I can just jump into? Don't really need a whole lot of backstory." And he had recommended. A lot of people either saying year 1 or to do Long Halloween. So I went to Long Halloween.
Yeah, it's a tough one to recommend Batman because there's so many different versions of him.
Yeah.
Like Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns is a great read.
Another one someone was saying to read too.
Yeah, you know what's funny? You made me think of when I was newer, getting back into comics. So I'm on eBay at work, right? I'm going into these comic shops. So at Past, Present, Future, I asked for like a recommendation. He recommended the Watchmen trade paperback.
Yeah, I read that one.
Great recommendation.
So good.
And I ended up getting the Absolute of that one. And then on another shop, I think it was Past, Present, Future in Lauderdale or Lauderdale or something, recommended Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, I never read that one.
So that's a tough read, man. But it's kind of like the big DC event that they took. Hold on, let me try to see if I'm getting this right. They took all of the multiple universes that they've unintentionally created and condensed them into one. So everything is on one timeline. Yeah. And it was kind of a tougher read than, like, say, Watchmen. But they haven't really done much with Crisis. You know, we don't even have... Oh, they did do an Absolute edition on it, but it's out of print. It was out of print when I got into collecting omnis.
Honestly, I know nothing about any of that stuff.
Yeah. Crisis
it's like
is
when
crazy.
I start talking comics with people, I kind of feel like ashamed of it. It's like, I don't read DC. It's not for me. DC was never relatable to me. I always associate DC with Batman,
right,
and Superman. Superman's like this all powerful. Like, how can I relate to that as a kid? Like,
I think I agree with you because I was big into trading cards. So you had crazy amount of Marvel trading cards, and then you had like that one DC set that they had the gray border, and I remember just looking at a lot of their characters and being like, these characters don't look cool to me.
Yeah,
you know, I love Superman. Superman is like one of my favorite characters because it was one of my first that I read with Death and Return of Superman. You know, I have the big, huge Superman piece on display. So I always loved Superman and Batman, but then when it came to like their other like B tier, C tier characters, I was never really as impressed with them as I was with Marvel. But what's funny is something that I've always said was I think Marvel have my favorite characters, but if I think about my favorite comic book stories, I lean more onto the DC side.
I think a lot of people say that.
I think they have better stories. But again, maybe more with the Batman and Superman related stuff. You know, I'm not really a big Justice League guy or a JLA or JLI and all that kind of stuff. But I do love Swamp Thing. That's one of the characters, though. I remember seeing those movies as a kid and thinking it was kind of cheesy.
Oh, for sure.
But reading Swamp Thing as an adult, first of all, Alan Moore Swamp Thing, fucking amazing. Anything Alan Moore does, man. I recently got done with his Miracle Man. I don't know if you ever read that.
No, I haven't.
But that's one that's also like you would steer clear from that because the character looks kind of like a rip-off Shazam. But if you read it, it's an Alan Moore story.
Yeah.
It's up there with Watchmen and with Swamp Thing and those kind of stories. So definitely a heavy recommend if you're into Alan Moore stuff.
Check that out.
He didn't even want to be credited in the omnibus, so it says the original writer. But man, we got to get Dave some DC recommendations.
I'm trying. It's hard to find the time too these days. Really.
I hear you, man. Yeah, even for me, man. Like between doing videos and traveling and editing and doing everything in house, because you know,
start doing like omnibus audiobooks or something. So, like,
you know, kind of like
I know the whole point though is to see the pictures, but it's like
Comicstorian built the whole channel off that of kind of like rereading the comic and doing the overlay on the pictures. To do an omnibus read. The thing is with the omnibus, they take a long time to read, man. Yeah. You know?
I bet.
Right now, I'm wrapping up Miracle Man because I read the Alan Moore portion, but the omnibus has like a couple of other stuff from other creators in it. And I'm reading Batman Hush right now. Hush is a good read.
Yeah, I'm familiar with isn't that like a Hush as a character that like can like almost like the chameleon kind of like right or no?
No, not really. So
does he like emulate Batman? Like he tries to like pretend to be him or something?
Nah.
Am I missing that?
And I've only read the main story of Hush. So now I've read it in the past in the Absolute Edition. I reread the main 12-issue story in the omnibus, and there's the Hush Returns and there's other stuff. So maybe it does get into that.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Hush is like a character from Batman's past. and he manipulates, I guess, other villains to do his bidding, and kind of like plays the background.
Okay.
He's not really like an intimidating part of the rogues
He's like
gallery.
the mastermind.
He's like a mastermind type of guy. Like he uses Poison Ivy to use her pheromones to take control of Superman and to take control of Catwoman and Harley Quinn. And being that he knows who Batman is, he knows who Bruce Wayne is. He kind of messes with him on two scales, I guess, on a personal and on a Batman
level.
So,
do the other villain, like, does Poison Ivy know that she's being used, or is he also like being a little bit of a villain to her too?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question, man. I don't even remember how he tricks Poison Ivy.
Thinks like, I don't know.
I forget how he gets control of her, to be honest. But then he uses Clayface a lot, and there's a lot of bait and switch going on. So it's really like a playing from behind the scenes type of storyline.
Yeah, if I ever read The Long Halloween, I'll have to check that out next.
Long Halloween is good. I'm over here now trying to think of DC recommendations.
Yeah. No, trust me. Once I tell someone that, they just instantly like, man, what, you gotta read this. You gotta read this.
Yeah, you go down this whole rabbit hole.
With what I got.
Whatnot is the largest US-based live selling app. You got to check it out. I'm on there selling comic books. There's people on there selling Pokemon cards, Funko Pops. They even have a category for vintage clothing. If you use my link to sign up, you'll get a free $10 credit that you can use immediately on my stream or on someone else's stream. Make sure to follow me on there as well, as we do a lot of exclusive drops and a lot of crazy big shows planned for 2024. Got to check them out over on Whatnot. Download the app and make sure to follow me. Yeah, man. So we got the comic book that we scripted. That's something I always kind of wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it's very overwhelming to try to make your own book.
No, it is for sure. But it's, I mean, you always got to start somewhere. Like being an artist, as far as being a writer and a musician, I found it helpful, like, not to focus on. Like, you're not always going to create a masterpiece.
Right. Just make
Sometimes
something.
you just got to do the work and like get the practice in and get
Yeah.
So I try not to get too focused on like it's got to be the best thing ever. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
And you can always go back and edit it. Like.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned getting into this with all the animated series, and then we had the movies, man. So I always like to kind of pick the brain of like, how did you feel? Like, where were you at when the MCU kicked off, and we had Iron Man, and when we had Thor, we had Captain America?
I was like super excited because that's honestly probably shortly after I started really getting into collecting comics.
Yeah.
I feel like it was good timing for me because as soon as I started really getting to know the characters in the books,
right,
boom, here come the movies now.
Exactly.
So it really flowed well for me, at least.
Yeah, I think it was similar for me in the sense that I think Iron Man came out, 2008?
Yeah.
So I think that was happening as I was getting back into comics, and once I started buying stuff offline, I would find my way into the shops, getting these recommendations, and I started buying and reading the weekly comics as well. And it was just like a magical time because, like you said, all this stuff's happening in the movies, and people are getting interested. And I think it brought a lot of people into the hobby.
Which I was going to say, that was a big downfall, though, being someone who liked to collect the keys.
Yeah.
As soon as the movie started coming out, those keys just started jumping like crazy. Like, you couldn't touch any, key Iron Mans, for a
forget it.
price.
Like Iron Man 55,
forget about it.
The first appearance of Thanos went from being like a $5 book to like this huge key because Thanos was always cool.
Yeah.
He was in the video games. We had the Infinity Gauntlet. But once he was teased at the end of Avengers, forget about it. Yeah, the MCU was definitely the speculation age for comic books. So key issues started going crazy.
I fell into that trap a few times with some books, I'll be honest.
Me too, man.
I'm going to get 10 of these, and then wait a minute, where's Wonder Man? Like,
oh, I know. So that leads me to that because it was kind of like sweet for the first phases. But then when you had to start speculating, okay, Rocket Raccoon's showing up.
Yeah.
And you get to these more obscure characters, Namor, or you're getting even Black Panther, his first appearance spiked up. But to your point, Wonder Man, we got the Wonder Man omnibus on the table. There is a show coming out for Wonder Man.
There is?
And they're probably his first appearance, what was it, Avengers 9 or some shit like that?
Yeah, I think so. It was the early Avengers issue.
It's probably more expensive than it ever was, but I don't think the movies are having the same effect that they once had.
Yeah, well, I think the movies are losing a lot of popularity, unfortunately.
So
I think it's so oversaturated is their problem.
They don't
they
realize
saw all this
man.
money opportunity. Like, all right, we got to hammer out all these movies, and then now they're pushing it out too much, I feel like.
So as somebody who's primarily like a collector of omnibus, of statues, or I was a big key issue collector, the MCU and the movies brought a lot of people in, but I feel like they scared a lot of those people away now.
Yeah.
With having lackluster movies, and even with modern comics, I think the movies brought a lot of people in, and then like me have went into the comic shop, started reading comics, and I think a lot of them realized quickly like, oh, this shit is kind of not for me, man. This is kind of whack. I definitely feel like the movie had a huge impact on collectors, the collectible hobby in itself. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get that back. Do you think that we've gone the way of the Western almost?
I don't know, man. I say it all the time to my friends. Every time a new Marvel movie comes out, they're like, "Oh, wasn't that good?" Like, you're never going to get another Endgame feeling. We'll never have that again.
Right.
I don't care what storyline you pull from the comics. It could be Nihilus. It could be Kang.
Nothing is going to be as big
Nothing will be
collecting
as big
the stones.
as Endgame. You will never have that again.
And even Endgame.
And I even trying to think of what storyline in the Marvel comics would be similar to that. Doesn't even come close to
the coming of Galactus. I don't think it's as big as that.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
First of all,
it'd be cool.
It's a 3-issue arc that we've seen in the movies, even though we didn't get a true Galactus.
But it's still been done in a sense.
It's been done.
Yeah, and now what are we on? Our third iteration of the film version of Fantastic Four already now.
Oh yeah, remember the second iteration?
Yeah, with Miles Teller and
who was the villain? Doom was the villain of that.
Doom. I don't remember who played him. Yeah, Doom was the villain. But he had like that real like emo look to him.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is it going to be that exciting to get Doom in the MCU when we've had 2 versions of him previously?
Yeah.
If
it's done right, I think so. I honestly really liked the guy that they had play him in the first time around. Yeah, the dude from Nip Tuck. I don't know the actor's name, but I thought he was a good choice to play.
Well, first of all, I think everyone was good casting except for maybe Jessica Alba as Sue Storm. Didn't really kind of fit the bill.
I think she was just a pretty face, I hate to say it, at the time.
Yeah, and I guess
I'm not saying she's a bad actress.
Oh, no,
I just
no,
think that it's like, okay, we need to put a name on this. And
she was the big name, right? Because Reed Richards guy, he wasn't a big name actor.
I couldn't tell you what that guy's name was.
Chris Evans was. I don't think he was
Chris
at
Evans
that time.
Was fairly. I don't want to say he was unknown, but I don't think he really did much.
I mean, he
was in American Pie or whatever.
Oh, was it?
Or no, what's the one where they make fun of American Pie?
Oh, I don't even know.
Not another teen movie.
Oh, yeah. Remember all those spoof movies? I see them pop up every now and then, like superhero movie. When they were making fun of the pre-MCU movies, they were making fun of like the X-Men, Spider-Man eras.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I don't know can they ever get back on track? It's hard because it was such a magical time. They've already done it. They've already taken these separate movies and combined them into these big teen movies and these big events. And to your point, man, I think
they honestly need to kind of backtrack a little bit and start going on, okay, let's focus on this character and do like, instead of bringing all these characters together, let's go and do like a storyline that, is just this character and what happens to him after that event. Instead of trying to bring them all back together and tie everything in again. Let them go off on their own again, kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. But then they kind of try to do that with the shows. Like you have Hawkeye. Yeah. And I love the Matt Fraction Hawkeye run. I thought that was a great read.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Matt Fraction.
But the show was kind of just like, yeah. It kind of was like Home Alone, but with superheroes. Right. Kind of, I don't know, it gives me that New York Christmas vibe. But
I'll always be excited to see something come to the screen just because I am a fan of the comics.
Right.
Like even all my friends are like, oh, I didn't really care for, Doctor Strange 2. Like, I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan. I loved it.
Yeah, I like Multiverse of Madness. I mean, I can.
Again, I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan too. Yeah. Though. Again, with my film background, I really like Sam Raimi, and like that's a very Sam Raimi movie. Like if you watch it, like.
Yeah, I could, and all the nitpicks and criticisms, like I get it, and I'll agree with a lot of them. But I'm also the type to kind of shut my brain off and just enjoy the movie for what it is.
That's me too.
And I tend to like the movies that people say are bad, and not like the movies that people say are good. Like I'm a huge Spider-Man 3 fan. Yeah. And that people will say that's a terrible movie, I guess, because of Topher Grace.
But if you take it for what it is, I mean, you got to see Venom. In my opinion, just the fact that we got to see Venom on screen, that was enough for me.
I would freeze frame the shot where Spider-Man's in costume and he's like free falling with Venom at one of the fights, because I think what he has like the web in the up in the skyscrapers. He has Mary Jane in the taxi cab, and when they're free falling, you're seeing a live action red and blue suit Spidey fighting the black symbiote Venom. To me, that was iconic. Yeah. It did take until the third act to get that.
Yeah, but still.
No, I like that movie for what it was. I don't know.
Just bring us some of our favorite moments in comics to life and just seeing those. That's enough for me, really. It doesn't have to be, an A+ Hollywood movie. I just like seeing it happen.
And I kind of feel that way about Wakanda Forever, because you had Namor in the air with his wings on his ankles going down towards
just
the water.
Little things like that.
Yeah, that was a dope scene, too.
Like even like in Endgame, like I to this day I get the chills when I see Cap get Thor's hammer.
Oh yeah,
and he gets Mjolnir, and I'm like, oh.
I love how that was kind of teased too throughout like the phases. Like, can he lift it? And you kind of had the feeling like that Marvel Studios was listening to the rumors and the fan stuff. Like, we're gonna mess with him a little bit. Did he lift it during that one scene? And what was that? Was that Civil War?
It was no, it was Ultron. Beginning of Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron. I'm a huge Age of Ultron movie fan. Like I feel like that's the movie where we really got to see them as a team together. I always say, busting bunkers and doing like side missions and such. because the first Avengers movie was them getting together, and the third one was them dying, or what have you. But you got to see them as a team. The Ultron character, I don't know.
It could have been. I feel like Ultron should have been someone that was survived and kept around. Like that's something Marvel tends to kill off.
They kill them
all these villains in their movie, except like besides Loki,
right?
They turn into this obviously like multifaceted character now.
They turn him into an anti or a hero. In a sense.
Did you see all of season 2?
Yeah,
I loved it.
I loved it too, man.
So good.
I kind of again, I understand the criticisms. I get them. A lot of them are valid, but like to see his arc completed at the end.
No, really, if you go back and think of who he started off as, and which they depict it in the show, they kind of do flashbacks. Like,
well, you watch
story arc's amazing. Besides Tony Stark, that's one of the greatest story developments ever.
If you talk about best character arcs in the MCU, you got to go Iron Man.
Yeah, for sure.
Does Cap have the best arc? I mean, they do a great job showing his origin.
Yeah, I feel like his was kind of just textbook. I mean, it was good. It was done well.
Yeah.
But really, what kind of character development? And I guess you could say it a little bit reverse character, where he's like this all-American guy, and then he starts to question authority.
He goes nomad, right? Yeah.
In that sense, he was kind of developed him, but
yeah. And then he chose love at the end and decided to live out his days with Peggy Carter. But then, Loki's character arc, I think it might be the best one.
Yeah, it's good. It's up there with Tony Stark.
The sacrifice at the end to basically, he holds the timeline together. I guess, right? He's essentially what Kang's thing was.
Yeah, he's like the replacement for the Loom.
Oh, exactly. Now, speaking of Kang, holy shit.
Jonathan Majors.
What do you think about Jonathan Majors, man? So, do you follow any of that?
So, I just recently got caught up to why. I knew he was on trial for something.
Domestic abuse.
Didn't know what it was for. Didn't follow it. Don't really care about the whole like Hollywood drama stuff like that.
Right.
But because of comics, I tried to keep up with it.
Right.
And I just recently found out it was domestic, and apparently he's done for now.
So he got found
guilty.
There was 4 charges. He got found guilty of 2 of them. One of them was like harassment, and one of them was, I guess it was, I don't know the exact term.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But did you see this TMZ video that came out?
I didn't see any of the videos. No.
So this is what happened. So I guess they got into some kind of argument in the car.
With his girlfriend, right?
With his girlfriend. I guess she grabbed his phone, probably saw something on there she didn't like, and apparently it got physical. Now, in the video, what you see is him trying to exit this SUV, and she follows him, and he forcefully puts her back in there, and it's a bad look. You look at this part of the video, and you're like, oh, shit, that's not a good look.
Yeah.
And apparently, he breaks her finger accidentally while doing this. Now, what happens after is interesting, because he then runs away. They're in the streets of Manhattan, and she's chasing him for blocks. So it's kind of hard for me to agree that he's this aggressor, abuser, when he's trying to run away from you and you're literally chasing him.
He's trying to put himself away from the situation, and she's chasing him down.
Which one could argue that's what he was doing with forcefully putting her in the car, but he definitely shouldn't have done that, man. He should have just ran.
No, for sure.
Like, why you're trying to put her in again, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Plus, you don't think when like tensions are high, you don't think.
Were they drinking? I don't know what the situation was.
So much we can speculate and don't know about that situation. Like, I'm not in a position to say what's right and wrong in that situation.
Now, here's the thing. Now, Marvel Studios is sitting back. We already know he's in jeopardy because his management company dropped him right when the allegations came out. Marvel Studios sat it out waiting on a verdict. As soon as they saw one guilty verdict, they were out. And then there's kind of this backlash now because you have the Ezra Miller situation, which he did way more heinous shit.
Even after, I feel like, didn't he do more after he was in the light?
He's a menace.
To Hawaii or something, like
some
or maybe that
grooming
was
allegation.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the thing with Jonathan Majors was different studios, and I think it was like with Ezra Miller, I think they were too far along in the movie process to like can the movie, which I don't know if I agree with either, because they canned that entire Batgirl movie. Yeah, everybody got paid, and they just shelved the whole thing. But so Ezra Miller got a pass, and then Jonathan Majors got fired, and Marvel's willing to kind of seemingly scrap the whole Kang storyline. And to me, that's the problem. It's like, how are you even able to do that? Did you even have a plan to begin with? It doesn't really seem like Phase 4 was kind of like the crack started to show. Yeah. Because now they're like, first of all, I think that they felt very cocky coming off of Guardians.
Oh, for sure.
We can take any group of misfits and make a blockbuster movie. But it's kind of like, could you?
Yeah. I don't know. I think they definitely have a challenge in front of them. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, there was a meme I saw on the internet that made me laugh. Like, it says Marvel has an opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. And it was a picture of Terrence Howard. It's like, cast him as the new Kang.
But he's one of those names I think Feige outed in that book, The Reign of the MCU, that they'll never work with again. It was him, Edward Norton. Yeah. And I think there was a third name that
I really like Edward Norton too, though.
So I said this on the last podcast. I like Edward Norton, American History X.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was a great actor. Tough role to fucking play.
Oh,
Fight Club, amazing.
Yep.
I never really bought into his Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
You know, and people, really liked him as Bruce, or really liked that movie. But I wasn't really a fan of that movie. I felt like it was one of the weakest, and I feel like my opinion was validated with the fact that they kind of like, first of all, they recasted him, and it's kind of like the black sheep of the MCU
Yeah.
with
Not
that
only did
movie.
they recast him, I feel like when they recasted him, they kind of changed his character even too.
Yeah.
Because Edward Norton's Bruce Banner was very wasn't as comical as
Right.
the new guy.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo, thank you.
Yeah, and Mark Ruffalo gets a lot of hate because of his personal opinions on the internet or what have you, but I always preferred his Banner and the kind of quirky scientist guy who struggled more mentally with the Hulk rather than physically,
Yeah.
where Edward Norton was kind of trying to control the change happening with his breathing techniques and not getting angry. But Ruffalo really, he struggled with more the mental aspect of it and trying to reason with Hulk. Man, you know what else came out recently too? I don't know if you've seen this. I guess there is a Infinity box set that came out, and there's deleted scenes that were not even like fully rendered in CGI yet. But there was a scene in Endgame where Banner is in the Hulkbuster fighting against, I don't remember
Does he Hulk out of it? Breaks the machine.
So that's not the part, but he's struggling with Hulk mentally because remember, Hulk doesn't come out ever since Thanos whooped his ass.
Yeah.
Thanos humbled the hell out of him. But he it shows they're merging together to become Smart Hulk that we see later in the movie. So this might be an Infinity War outtake.
Yeah.
But it shows how we got Smart Hulk.
Instead of just jumping to I'm a Smart Hulk now.
Yeah, we worked it out.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
gotcha. Like to kind of like show how that came about a little bit more.
I guess in the director's cut or whatever, they kind of explain that audiences that saw that felt like it happened too fast.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, to do it off screen is even faster. To just meet him in the future and be like, oh, hey, we worked it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really bought into that, but
There's so much they're trying to cram those movies already. I mean, they had to cut obviously stuff.
yeah. But that was, if anybody gets a chance, I would recommend to check it out on
check that
YouTube
out.
because there's a couple of deleted scenes like that. I'm trying to think of what the other ones were. They kind of really fill in a lot of holes.
Yeah.
That you're like, damn, you probably should have put this in there.
Dang.
But
Have to look into that.
yes, Infinity Saga box set like outtakes or what have you. So yeah, I mean,
cool.
Speaking of comic book movies, so Aquaman 2 is in theaters. Did you see it?
No.
Are you planning to see it?
No.
Well, you're not a DC guy.
Yeah, not only am I not a DC guy, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie though. I did see the first Aquaman movie. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Jason Momoa. Although I was recently on these international trips. Have you ever flown international?
I have not. I don't own a passport. I've never left the country.
Yeah, so the plane rides suck.
I bet. I couldn't imagine. It was like 14 hours.
On one of the flights, of the 3 flights it took me to get to my
I'd
location.
go crazy.
But they have movies on board, and they tend to have movies that I feel like are still in theaters. I mean, they had Barbie on there, which I did see in theaters because my daughter wanted to go. But I watched Fast X, which had Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Terrible movie. First of all, I haven't seen past
They need to stop making
the
Fast and
third
Furious.
one. I think Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen 4 till now, but I watched Fast X because I was like, fuck it, I'm on the plane.
Yeah.
And
I
Jason
feel like
Momoa.
you don't need a prior history of the Fast universe
That's
to
kind of
watch
what I
any
felt
of
like
them,
too,
really.
man. Yeah, terrible movie, man. And it makes me mad because I know people like these movies.
Yeah.
I don't know why that makes me mad, but it's like there's 10 of these movies.
Yeah.
They're
Well, as long
ridiculous.
as people keep paying to see them, they're going to keep making them.
Have you seen all of them?
No, I've seen probably most of them, to be honest. I haven't seen all of them. I probably saw the first 3 or 4 and then maybe 8.
The first one was dope, man. The first one was like,
first one was innovative.
Yeah, it was
That's how I
dope.
feel about the Saw movies. Like Saw movies,
Yeah.
the first one, amazing. Then as they progress, I think they're just trying to bank in on what they did and recreate that formula, and it gets oversaturated.
I feel like they're on Saw X at this point.
Yeah, I think they are. It might be.
And I'm not a horror guy at all, but I saw Saw 1, and that was so like, it puts you in that situation. What would you do
Yeah.
if you were chained? Would you cut your arm off
Yeah.
or not? That was like the whole
I
lore.
think, that was definitely like what got people into those films. It was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, what if that was me?
Yeah, but I'm with you on Aquaman. So like, I'm a fan of Jason Momoa. I did see Aquaman 1. I enjoyed it. It felt like a comic book movie. It felt like a comic book on screen.
Yeah.
Like I think I had read like the Aquaman by Jeff Johns omnibus either shortly before or after, and I'm like, yo, they borrowed so heavily from this in a good way. I think the problem with comic book movies before the MCU was like in our age growing up. I mentioned this in some other show. it didn't have anything to do with any of the comic runs you read.
Yeah.
It was like the character you knew, and then just whatever made up story they made for this. So borrowing more from the source material, I feel like that's what made the MCU great.
Yeah.
Especially with the origin movies, like the Iron Man origin, like, man, flawless.
Yeah.
You had a tried and true script already with the comics. Now with Aquaman 2, I feel like it's kind of like the Marvels. It's like, yeah, the first one they both did $1 billion. Aquaman 1 and Captain Marvel did $1 billion in the box office. Nice. But that was a different time, man.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, everybody saw Aquaman 1. I don't know how many of us were really saying, yo, we got to get a sequel on this. Right. I feel like it was good, but, you know, we're just kind of wanting to see the Justice League formed.
Yeah.
Because he was, I forget even, he was part of the Justice League movies. But, yeah.
See, not being a DC person, I watched that movie in a different light because I know nothing about Aquaman. Like I couldn't tell you what was it, Black Mantis or
Black Manta.
I didn't know who he was before that movie. I didn't know who what is the guy he defeats at the end of the first one. He becomes like an Ocean Master or something.
Oh, it is Ocean Master.
Yeah, or something like that. Like, so I
didn't
know all that until then I started doing some research though after I watched the movies.
Yeah.
Just to kind of feed my brain a little bit to get more knowledge of what could happen next, you know, kind of thing.
See, I think me as someone who was collecting keys and getting into buying and selling, I'm looking up who's Aquaman's main villain, what's the first appearance. And that's kind of what got me into that.
The C-listers, like this guy could pop up.
And I got into Ocean Master from the New 52. I think it was like the Villains Month or whatever. And he had like a lenticular cover, and all those were like one shots on those characters. Black Manta had a dope cover too, and Black Manta is like the villain of this movie as well.
That's what I was going to ask you. He is the villain, right, of this one?
And then you got like kind of similar to a Jonathan Majors thing. You got Amber Heard.
Yeah, is she in it at all?
I heard she's in it a lot.
Oh, you haven't seen it either, though?
I haven't seen it either.
Okay. Oh, she is. Well, I mean, how do you make the movie though and cut a character totally out and still make it make sense?
Well, I think a lot of the rumors were because also they kind of omitted her from the trailers because there's a large fan base out there that's not rocking with her after the whole debacle with her and Johnny Depp. And apparently she is in the movie a lot, so that may hurt sales because there's a large portion that are going to boycott because of that.
I'm not saying I condone anything that any of those people did, but at the same time, I feel like as someone who enjoys media, I can separate my feelings.
I agree.
And still watch a film with someone who, I'm not saying, again, not condoning what they did, but I can still go and sit and watch that movie for what it is. Yeah. Knowing that she, did what she did or supposedly did, and not let it affect my movie-going experience.
I think that's like,
but not everyone thinks that way.
No, and I understand, the mentality of not wanting to support it, but I'm with you because now it's like, damn, I can't listen to Puff Daddy music anymore. Yeah, right. I can't listen to R. Kelly music.
Kanye.
Can't listen to Kanye.
What can I listen to?
Or Michael Jackson. Yeah. It's like, at the end of the day,
cancel culture, man.
It's
can't
almost
watch Pepe Le Pew cartoons anymore.
It's almost like you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
It's true, man.
Because how many great artists are we now depriving ourselves? Now it is fucked up what they did if they really did those things. Yeah. But it's like, damn.
Especially when they're like bringing up all these things like what they tried to do with James Gunn.
Yeah.
They brought up that stuff that happened to him like 10 years ago.
Well, his shit was
some silly post that he put on Twitter, which he probably wasn't, which he shouldn't have said it.
Right, dumb tweets.
I think it was like I don't know, something about disabled people or something that he said as a joke. I obviously doesn't really mean it. It was like 10 years ago. And that's what got him fired originally, and then they brought him back to do Guardians 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so that was interesting that Marvel even brought him back, because Marvel seems to be more strict on the cancel culture thing, but also that was in like the heyday of cancel culture. I feel like we are slowly getting away from that. Like the country in the world has gotten so politically correct, because we're from the era before political correctness, and we had to like deal with it, unfortunately. But I feel like we hit the peak of that, and we're kind of on the downslope a little bit. Hopefully, because...
No, I agree.
I mean, there is a certain line, but it's kind of like, man, at the end of the day, you're not going to have anything.
People are literally getting offended by everything. Like, I felt like at some point, but like...
But I feel like, you know what I feel like? I feel like the cringe movement is going to take that over. I feel like that's what's going to be the downfall of superhero movies. I feel like if you go to middle schools right now, or high schools right now, it's probably cringe to like superhero movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I know my oldest kid's 9, and he's already at that stage where he's like, Dad, I just want either Adidas, Nike, or plain shirts. I don't want to wear Marvel shirts to school anymore.
I feel like it's cringe.
Being a Marvel dad, I'm like, what? I was like, why?
Becoming cringe
to my eyes,
is the worst thing that you can be in this new generation.
Yeah.
So I feel like if Marvel is cringe, and I feel like like the political correctness is becoming cringe
for sure.
with this newer generation, and I feel like that's what's going to make it go out the door. But what's going to replace superhero movies then? Because everything has its run.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, westerns that had its run. We have superhero movies. So I mean, are we going to go back to sci-fi? We got this Rebel Moon thing that came out. Did you watch that?
Not even watched it yet. I was gonna check it out.
You're a Star Wars guy, though, right?
Oh yeah, big Star Wars fan.
So this is supposed to be like the answer to Star Wars in the sense, like it was like the rejected R-rated script. But it's not even an R-rated movie, though. Yeah. And I saw the movie at an early screening when I was in Brazil. We went to me and my daughter. We went to CCXP.
Okay.
First of all, it blew my mind. I really messed up not getting a lot of footage on the floor because you've been to C2E2.
Yes.
So imagine every booth is like something you could walk through as like an amusement park experience.
Dang.
Every booth is like
waiting in line for the Batman ride at Six Flags.
That type of shit. Now, it's not necessarily a ride.
Yeah.
But everything is like an immersed experience that you can walk through.
You in,
Exactly. It's not really just a booth to buy things.
Okay.
So it was huge. But we got to see Rebel Moon, and I'm going to give a couple of my thoughts on it real quick, not to spoil it.
No,
it's not going to spoil it.
I'll still watch it if you do.
But like the violence was super tame.
Yeah.
Like every kind of stab, there's no blood. Every kind of shot is off screen. And it's kind of like, man, was this the R-rated? Where's the R rating on this thing, man? So I feel like it was super tame. There's other things about the movie I didn't like. The pacing issues. It's very much let's recruit this team.
Who's behind that? Like, what's
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder.
So it looks like a Zack Snyder. Cinematography is great. A lot of slow motion, which I'm not really against. I think it kind of really builds up the hype. But it's got pacing issues, and it's a 2-part movie. So they already, I think, made.
So this is just the first part that was released?
This is the first part. But I feel like they conveniently put together this squad. Too conveniently, I guess is what I'm looking for. Like everyone just kind of falls in line.
Now, is this based off of a comic or anything like that? Or
No.
is this original?
I think it was a script that was written and pitched to Lucasfilms that they rejected.
Okay.
So it's got Star Wars vibes. There's even someone who has like Star Wars type of lightsabers.
Speeder bike? Oh, lightsaber.
Lightsabers.
You did this, I thought you were going to say speeder
Oh,
bike.
no. But she has two. Her name is Nemesis. Badass character.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
She fights this big like
my
arachnid.
I got Star Wars tattoos all over my arms, actually. I'm big into Star Wars.
No, you were telling me when we were doing like your kind of reaction, like you got the E Honda Chun-Li on the belly.
Yeah, I got E Honda on this side, and I got Chun-Li doing her kick on this side.
So is he doing the 100 hand?
Oh yeah, it looks like he's doing it. Yeah.
Those were both the button mashing thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Rebel Moon, I think it's out on Netflix. I think it came out a day early.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I keep seeing it advertised because I've been watching a lot of stuff.
I'd be interested to hear what you think about it.
Yeah,
Are you like a diehard Star Wars guy, or
I'd
like?
say so. I have this ongoing bet with my friends that if they can beat me in a game of Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, I'll give them $100 bill.
So you're into
I've yet to be beaten.
So I never got into Star Wars. So my first Star Wars experience, I was at like a summer camp. And the counselors were a little bit older than you. You know how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, all right, guys, we're going to put on a classic. We're going to put on Star Wars. You guys, this is my favorite movie. And he put it on. And I remember being like, yo, this shit is mid, man. This shit is so dated looking. All the haircuts look super old. And I didn't get hooked as a kid. And it took me until like my later adult life where I'm like, all right, let's just go through this. I watched the original trilogy. Then I watched the prequel trilogy. And I became much more of a fan of it. Yeah. I saw the sequel trilogy in theaters as it came out. I loved Episode 3. I think Episode 3 is like my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Just the end battle with Anakin.
For sure. It's awesome seeing like him become Darth Vader.
Seeing him become
Darth
Vader.
Not cool? See, honestly, my favorite. I really like Rogue One a lot.
Rogue One was dope, especially. But again,
I like how it brings you 2 speed up to the first A New Hope, and then it goes.
So that's in between Episode 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So when the first one came out, when did they name it Episode 4? It wasn't.
I honestly don't know that one.
It was later.
I think it was.
Look
later
at the Star Wars Trivial Pursuit guy.
But I don't know. I don't think he intended on making it past that trilogy.
It was
when he first wrote it. I don't know.
I think it's when the prequels came out.
When the prequels first came out is when he did the renaming.
Yeah, I think Jar Jar Binks was definitely a terrible character.
Oh yeah.
And I think all of the council meetings. What was that? Is that in the Clone Saga or Clone Wars?
Like when they had like the big grand meeting.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of
Easter egg.
A lot of there was that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of boring parts in some of the prequels.
Yeah. The prequel. I hate to say it, like not down with the prequels. The third one's the best of the prequels. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's my favorite one.
Well, I think the first one is kind of charming, and they got the pod racing. You had the Jar Jar Binks stuff, but and then when you have A New Hope is episode 7?
No, A New Hope is 4.
Force Awakens, then.
Yeah.
Force Awakens is the first one of the sequel trilogy, and I kind of liked it in the sense that it was A New Hope. It was like a recreation of the first movie with better graphics, which was the hard pill for me to swallow watching the original movie.
Yeah, I think it had good potential, but then they did the next two, and it's just I can't.
Well, the Finn was
like they went downhill.
It was a dope idea of playing with like a conflicted stormtrooper, but didn't they kind of establish that the stormtroopers were mostly clones of Boba Fett?
Yeah.
So that
Well, they do
they
say
touch
though
on
in
it,
the movie.
yeah.
I think it's a piece of dialogue that explains it. They basically say, "Oh, we no longer do the clones. We get our troopers from,
Right.
orphans and
Right.
nomads or whatever, something like that."
But the clones make more sense because like you shouldn't be able to have your own thought. Like I guess the orphans can grow up to be like, why am I doing this?
There's actually a really cool Dark Horse Star Wars story because I used to read a lot of Dark Horse Star Wars before I bought my Marvel, where a stormtrooper and his group like get taken out by Darth Vader because he gets pissed off or something, and the stormtrooper decides he's going to take revenge on Darth. It's a story about him trying to take revenge on Darth Vader.
That's dope.
I can't remember the name of the storyline, but it's super cool. It's
Yeah.
Dark Horse.
So I'm only a very casual Star Wars fan. Just had watching the main movies. I've watched some of the Clone Saga. Is it the Clone Wars?
Yeah, the Clone Wars.
Yeah, the
There's
CGI.
Clone Wars. Yeah, this is the cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah, the cartoon. So did you watch all the Disney Plus shows and all that as well?
Yeah.
So okay.
No, yeah, I thought what's it called, the Obi-Wan one was really good. I really liked that one.
Ahsoka and then,
was good. See, again, similar to I don't really get too into the clone stuff of Star Wars though. I like the OG Star Wars, like the first trilogy is what most of my knowledge is about.
Got you.
Whereas like I saw everything. I didn't really and I watched a lot of the Clone Wars stuff, but like I didn't really get into like Ahsoka too much. I really didn't know a whole lot about Ahsoka until the show came out, to be honest.
Yeah, got you.
It was like the OG stuff that I'm really into.
But I always hear like that, like the original Clone Saga was like one of the best Star Wars adaptations, and then the comics, the Dark Horse comics specifically, had so much great
I liked
material.
a lot of the stuff Dark Horse did before they got rid of the rights to Star Wars.
Yeah, that Marvel
They got
has
some
them
good
now.
stuff.
But I was actually enjoying the Darth Vader run that Marvel. It's still ongoing now, I believe. But again, I hadn't kept up with it
No, I
this
haven't
whole
either.
year.
The last thing I read, I think, was when they released that Dr. Aphra and they started doing her own series.
I think
got
Dr.
into that a
Aphra,
little bit, and then-
people were more hyped on the potential of a new character
Yeah.
to like spec on by the first appearance and have her
Yeah.
show up. And she has not shown up anywhere yet, right? Live
I don't
action
think so,
or
no.
I don't know. I could see him eventually doing something with her, but she's just another kind of like bounty hunter, I think, or something. She worked for Vader. But yeah, I could never really get into Star Wars. There was a few fandoms I never really got into, like the whole kind of sci-fi, like Middle Earth kind of stuff, like Lord of the Rings and
Yeah, see, I
Hobbit.
never got into any of that.
I mean, or even like Harry
That's
Potter.
like being a big film buff. Like everyone's like, "Oh, do you like Lord of the Rings?" Like,
Yeah,
I watched the first one and I didn't watch anymore because I'm not into that, like dwarves and elves and stuff. Like
yeah,
that.
I never
It's
got
not
into
for
it either.
me. Like,
Yeah, me too. I get the lore. Maybe had I read the books first or something like that, because I think it's always fun when you read the source material and then you see it adapted, and then maybe you're more invested into it.
for sure.
Now, being the film guy, so what is your go-to like genre?
Oh, I don't know, man. I just recently watched like all of Quentin Tarantino's movies.
You know that's exactly what I was thinking about Quentin Tarantino.
I just watched Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and I just watched Death Proof. Super into.
So I just got
My movie taste is very like my music taste. It's all over the
yeah,
place.
me too. But I like Quentin Tarantino. I recently last night I was watching a bunch of YouTube videos on like 30 things you don't know about these movies, and Pulp Fiction came up on the whole thing on like how Vincent Vega was really like terrible at his job.
Oh yeah,
And then like Marcellus, is that the guy?
Marcellus Wallace, yeah, Ving Rhames character.
He like purposely gave him all these like stupid tasks, like take out his wife to dinner,
Yeah.
or to go scope out Bruce Willis's character's his apartment. And what was the first thing? He went with Jules on that.
To go pick up the briefcase.
But he didn't do shit.
Yeah.
And all he did was mess up. He killed the guy on accident.
I shot Marvin in the face.
And then it was like a whole theory, like, was it an accident? Or was
Yeah.
it he was so mad about the argument with Jules on divine intervention? And then it was funny. I did a stream last night on this other channel that I'm doing, GemX, which is like everything but comics and stuff. But we reacted to like some Collider list on 25 top villains. And the villain from, I guess, Inglourious Bastards was on there.
Yeah.
But see, that was a movie that was a one and done for me. I never really got into that one. But apparently...
That's good. I really like Christoph Waltz, the guy who played the villain.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about,
Yeah,
him.
he's also in Django.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. I like him.
But Quentin Tarantino, he's a wild guy, man.
Oh, yeah, he is. There's a lot of people that either love him or hate him kind of thing, I feel like. Because I know some people that don't like him at all, and I don't like his style. And And he obviously, a lot of his films are inspired by older films.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't know. To be honest, that's the case. But,
Well, what's funny, I was watching last night, and they were talking about because they were talking about how Vincent Vega is brothers with the guy from Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, they're brothers.
So it's like he really had this connected cinematic universe
he does.
before
The
MCU.
Red Apple cigarettes show up in a lot of his movies.
There's a couple of things that show up.
Yeah.
He had that, and so did Kevin Smith.
Oh,
the
yeah.
View Askew universe.
I just met Kevin Smith not too long ago.
Yo,
Cool.
so Kevin Smith was like one of the people before I started this channel. I really looked up to him as a guy that comic fan, sold his collection to make his first movie, and he hit it big, and he's a real huge fan. But I hated what happened to him. Like, he lost favor with the internet.
Yeah.
I think really what he did mostly with He-Man, which I didn't watch, but I guess it was a bait and switch, and it was kind of whatever. But so you're still a fan, obviously.
Yeah, I still am a fan. I'm not gonna lie. When me and my friend, we went to see him in Chicago, and he did. It was a screening of Clerks 3.
Yeah.
And he came out and did like a meet and greet too beforehand.
That's dope.
And he's very cool, but I think he also has a little bit of like he knows he's the shit. Like vibe to him. He's still very friendly, very cool. Like,
Yeah.
He's not like a jerk.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like he knows like his shit don't stink kind of now.
Yeah.
And that like I don't know.
So when you're not humble, that's kind of a turn off, you know?
I want to say he's not humble. It's just I don't know. He gets a little bit of a vibe that like. It's like, okay, if you haven't been to my Q&A before, there's very little Q, a lot of A. Basically, like literally, like two or three people got to ask a question, and it was just him just talking and talking.
He's a talker, man.
So, yeah.
He's a strong personality.
It's whatever. I mean, it's...
Well, the thing is, like, I'll always have a soft spot for him because I fucking love Mallrats.
Oh, yeah.
Love Mallrats. I love Clerks 2.
Yep.
Clerks 1 I like as well, but I don't like it as much as Mallrats.
Yeah.
But I respect it's the foundation. Love Jason Mewes. We shared the same birthday, me and Jason Mewes.
That's awesome.
Love it. I love the fact that he was just being himself.
Yeah.
He was just playing
Chasing Amy. I like Chasing Amy a lot.
that was like a one and done for me. I love Dogma.
Dogma's good.
I love that he casted Alanis Morissette as God. I thought that was cool. And I really liked the supernatural aspect of that, and still yet tying in with everything else. Now, Clerks 3 was kind of a hard watch for me. It was kind of sad.
Yeah, I think it was a little more serious, and he's talked about that at the screening about how they're very much so like it's kind of like it comes back full circle. Like the first Clerks he made was very much about him, being a clerk. And being someone who wanted to make a movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Clerks 3, it goes back to.
Yeah.
It's almost him telling the story of how he made the first Clerks movie.
Yeah, and even taking his heart attack experience, but giving it to...
Because his father had a heart attack, and that's what...
Well, he had one, too.
Yeah, and he had one, too. Yeah, but his father had one. There's a bunch of stuff he talked about at the meeting.
What is the character's name? Not Dante, but the other guy. Randall. Yeah, and then I always liked in Mallrats, TQ? What's his name? What's the guy's name? He's the main character. I forget his name. It's TK, I think, or some shit like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But they didn't really bring him back for anything.
No.
They were supposed to do a Mallrats sequel, and apparently a couple of those guys were holdouts. I think he must have been one of them. And who's the guy who ended up playing on My Name is Earl?
Jason Lee.
Jason. I was always a big fan of Jason Lee.
Yeah, Jason Lee's funny.
Yeah. But
Would you like a chocolate pretzel?
Yeah, the chocolate-covered pretzel, man. That scene still gets me, man.
Yeah. And you got Stan Lee in that, too, though.
Stan Lee,
He made a little appearance.
doing cameos before the MCU.
Yeah.
Damn,
I'm pretty sure Jason Lee's character asked him, like with Mr. Fantastic, does everything stretch?
Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah, is this dork made of orange rock? The thing I liked about Kevin Smith movies is what I also like about Quentin Tarantino movies. And it's the same thing that I like about comic artists. I like it when you can tell who did it.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch a Kevin Smith movie, everybody has this long-winded dialogue, and he'll throw in certain words. Like, he could have said, hey, it's things dick rock.
Yeah.
But he calls it a dork.
Yeah.
He used, like, this other, like, you don't really use that.
Non-traditional verbiage, yeah.
And I like that. I like those long-winded conversations, and they kind of use this vocabulary that's unique to Kevin Smith. And then with Quentin Tarantino, the way that he'll kind of, like, do it out of order on the timeline. And I can't say... There's this meme of Quentin Tarantino writing himself into a movie so he could say the N-word. Like, that's always kind of crazy to me, too. Like, why are you so comfortable saying that? That's so crazy to me.
Yeah, well, me and my wife talking about, like, a lot of people, like, gave him crap about, saying the N-word a lot in Django. I'm like, do you know, like, what time period that was? Like, that's how people were, unfortunately. Like,
yeah, it's funny reading, like, the Leonardo DiCaprio kind of his hesitance to it, but then Samuel L. Jackson, like, motherfucker, say the line.
Just say it.
If Samuel L. Jackson tells you to say the line, you say the line. But he's also one that kind of has lost favor with the internet too, man. Like he was like a guy that, man, you couldn't say anything wrong about Sam Jackson. Back in the day, but now people kind of, I guess, because his like relationship with Brie Larson. I don't even
think right now, like, what was the last thing he's done?
The Marvels.
Besides that, he's really just kind of sticking to that.
Secret Invasion. Yeah, he's really been in the MCU. But also, he's the type to show up in a movie you didn't even realize he was going to be in.
Yeah, and then die or something.
But I don't think Sam Jackson has turned down a role yet.
Yeah.
He's been in like fucking 100 movies.
Yeah, I mean, paycheck's a paycheck, man.
I'm not mad at him. I'm still a big Sam Jackson fan.
The actors still got to make some money.
Nah, for sure. Yeah, man. And apparently they don't make too much money, man.
Well, that's what this whole strike's about. If I'm not mistaken, this whole strike is about, like, they're getting mad because they're signing these contracts with movie deals.
Yeah.
And then in these contracts, the movie company is basically saying, after you sign this and make this one film, we're allowed to use AI and use your likeness for further films.
So
these actors are like, well, no, I don't want you to do that.
It's the AI, and then it's the fact that streaming, there was no, like, it didn't transfer over, like, DVD and Blu-ray sales to streaming sales.
Yeah.
Like, you
they
would
weren't getting, like, reprimanded properly for all, like, the streaming.
There was no royalties structure in place, but you would think it would have just been the same as whatever the DVD sales were.
Yeah.
Like, if you got 3 cents per DVD, you should got 3 cents per stream, or maybe it's different, but the strikes are over now, though, I believe.
Yeah.
But, then there was, like, this Taraji P. Henson. She's recently going viral because she was on a podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with this actress, but she was in movies like Baby Boy with Tyrese and Snoop.
I've heard
she was
movie,
in Paid in Full. Not Paid in Full. What is that? Whoop That Trick with Terrence Howard. Hustle and Flow.
Oh, yeah. I've heard. I don't think I've seen those, but I've heard of them.
So anyway, saying basically like... the pay structure and how, you know, she got $500,000 for this movie, but by the time you pay all these expenses and taxes, you're left with like $100,000 or whatever. And it's easy to be like, oh, who feels bad for you making $100,000? But it's like, imagine if like you're losing like 4 times your pay.
Yeah.
And whatever. So I mean, there's kind of like, she's going viral for that now. Dang. I'm a big fan of her. My wife's a big fan of her as an actress as well. She's done some iconic roles. She's done a ton of other roles.
Check it out. I'm sure I know her. She's probably one of those people, like, as soon as I see her, I'm like, oh yeah.
She's one of those actresses, you'll see her face, you'll be like, oh, she's in a million things. But, I mean, people should be compensated for their work, especially when the work that you're creating is generating hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, for sure.
I think with her, I think I made a comment somewhere, too. You'll catch me on a lot of Instagram posts. Like, if you see, like, a viral post, you might catch me in the comments, because I just fuck around and comment. But definitely should be taking back-end royalties more than the upfront cash. Like, look at Robert Downey Jr., that's how he banked off the first Avengers. I think he took royalties over a big cash payment, and it blew up. And he made some kind of crazy $50 million or something off the first Avengers. I'm surprised he really still does movies.
I think even for like his little cameo in like Spider-Man, he got like a crazy like $100 million. Like, I don't know, I'm just throwing a number out there, but like a lot of money for a very small part.
A lot of the budget was used to get him into that movie, which to me was like the worst thing about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, being so reliant on Tony Stark and Iron Man. But man, we're in a crazy shift right now, man.
Sure.
The pandemic was like such an apex moment for collectors because everybody was home. Everybody was like looking up nostalgic things on YouTube. Everybody had a little extra money because they were giving unnecessary stimulus checks. They were giving us stimulus checks.
I know. I feel like I banked off that, to be honest, because I was lucky enough to be at a restaurant where we got to stay open for dine-ins.
Boom.
Or, I'm sorry, for delivery and pickup only.
Yeah.
So not only was I still working, but I was getting stimulus checks on top of my paycheck.
Right.
So it's like I made more money then than I ever did. Like,
no, that was a peak year for me as well.
Yeah, and then selling some collectibles, like people were paying top dollar for them. Like, I was making money.
So I do a video with Comic Tom. I don't know if you ever catch any of those. So we do like the hot 10 back issues. It's based off of Key Collector, which this is not a plug or anything, but he does a great job of fucking tracking all these comic sales every single week. And we happened to start that video series together. And when he asked me to do it, I was willing to do it because you know me. I was buying and selling Key issues. I was into that at the time. So it was cool to be like, all right, let's talk about the market. So we're doing these videos, and all of a sudden, every book is tremendously outselling the previous sale of that book in that grade. And we look back at it now, we call it the comic boom of 2021 or whatever. But now that we're coming out of that, we're at a different space now. We're at a space where everything is more expensive, but everybody has less money.
Yeah.
And everybody is turned off by the movies, and people are turned off with modern comics. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say I'm scared. I'm more interested to see where we go from here. You know,
I think it needs to be honestly, I think it needs to be scaled down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I think I mean, I'm sure they do realize, I mean, they got people who do analysis and all this stuff. Like the market's going down. Like they need to pull back a little bit and stop flooding the market with all this stuff.
Well, and to that point, as far as movies are concerned, the only movie on the schedule for Marvel,
I think it's Deadpool now.
Is Deadpool 3, which is almost like, it doesn't even feel like an MCU movie because the first 2 movies were under Fox.
Yeah.
So this is the first movie of Deadpool in the MCU. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fan service, which I'm a sucker for. Like, you're going to win me over every time. Hugh Jackman Wolverine in actual costume this time. Like, if he doesn't wear the mask, he's got to wear the mask.
Yeah, I hope he does.
Did you see that, like, teased
at the end of
end credit scene?
The Wolverine, I think it was.
That was unused, I think.
I can't remember what I think it was the Wolverine. When he's on the plane and he opens the briefcase.
Yeah, it's got the mask.
That Yumiko chick, whatever her name was.
Yuriko.
Yeah, Yuriko.
That was a character from the Frank Miller miniseries. So, I mean, they got to wear the mask. It looks like they're going to have cameos galore. Like,
I think it's funny what Ryan Reynolds did, like when you said like stop sharing then he starts like putting out fake ones. It's like the Predator or whatever on set. Like,
there were so many leaks from that one scene. First of all, there's a scene we all saw, I'm sure, the Sabretooth leak scene. But then there's one which looks real of Cyclops there.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if that's real or fake.
Now? I think that's what they're wanting.
That's what he wanted to do. So Ryan Reynolds put so many like.
If you don't think there's someone out there making fake leaked footage now just to throw people off. Like,
well, how much of the movie is going to be in that one desert scene?
Yeah, right.
But I definitely think they're going to do like a Deadpool kills the Fox universe.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Type of movie. It would be awesome.
That's what I thought they should do.
I recently read that and reviewed it with one of those Deadpool mini buses.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember if it was that one or if it was the Punisher kills where Wolverine gets ran over by the steamroller.
Oh, that was Punisher then, because
Punisher
I recently read the Deadpool one. I don't remember that in there.
It has to be Punisher kills.
But I'm looking forward to that. But I don't know that's the saving grace necessarily of the MCU.
Maybe a good kickstart.
I think
I don't know. I've seen a lot of buzz about like the Punisher and Daredevil coming back too now for the Born Again thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that will help revitalize it a little bit too. The ground level heroes.
So here's the other thing.
This cosmic shit all the time. Like bringing it back to the ground level heroes like Daredevil, Punisher.
So that's kind of the argument that we've had where we need Doom as like not a street level villain, but like a more grounded on Earth villain.
Yeah.
And then you have the Galactus threat looming. But to the point earlier, what's bigger than Infinity Gauntlet? Like, what about Secret Wars? You don't think Secret Wars has a big enough oomph?
I think so, but I don't think. I mean, maybe it's just because the movies helped educate people about. But I feel like when I think of great thing, I always think Infinity Gauntlet, like reading it, and then like.
So here's
in the comics, you go into the Infinity. What's after with Adam Warlock after the fact?
Infinity
Watch.
It was Infinity Crusade.
Yeah, Infinity Crusade.
You had Infinity War, Infinity Watch, Infinity Crusade.
Yeah.
But they really kind of ruined their Adam Warlock opportunity.
I think James Gunn did that on purpose.
Well, they already ruined it with Vision. They kind of made Vision what Adam Warlock would have been with having the stone in his forehead, although Warlock had the Soul Stone in the comics. But so if you have you not read Hickman's Avengers?
No.
So his Avengers, which he has a Fantastic Four run that kind of leads into the Avengers, but the Avengers leads into Secret Wars. Secret Wars is based off of the first Marvel crossover event, which was Secret War.
Yeah.
And it was this kind of idea that this entity, the Beyonder, puts together this battle world, and they all fight on there, right?
Yeah.
So this is similar. There is a battle world, but it's all about God Doom. And he uses Multiple Man as this battery. Not to get too deep into it, but basically... there's a multiverse, and there's these incursions that are happening where universes are colliding and destroying each other. Like when two universes collide during this incursion, one of them dies, and all the people on that planet, that whole entire universe dies.
Yeah.
So it's a bad thing, right? So the Multiple Man is the same in every multiverse, and he's basically harnessed as this battery that keeps Battle World together. And I might be getting some of this wrong. Please, I know you're going to correct me in the comments. It
sounds kind of similar to an Invincible, the Angstrom Levy character. How he's in different,
And it might have been Multiple Man. There might be only one of him. It might be that he's the only one, that there is only one, and there's not multiple versions, which is ironic because he's Multiple Man.
I haven't read the new one.
Jamie Madrox, which is the guy from Twisted.
I was just going to say, that's something to do from Twisted.
So Twisted legally changed his name to Jamie Madrox because that's his favorite character.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to Twisted and Jamie.
Funny.
They're a big fan of our stuff.
Yeah, there's a guy who he's from the Michigan area, I want to say, Dirk Manning, who's writes comics with him. I want to say.
Oh yeah,
they do comics
because he's a huge
he's
comic
a comic
fan.
book writer, Dirk Manning.
Yeah, so yeah, shout out to Twisted, and they're an offshoot from Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah,
which
I had that phase.
I didn't have that phase.
I wore the FUBU, man. I did it.
So I wore the FUBU, but more because I was more of a Malibu's Most Wanted type of kid.
Nice.
But I wasn't a juggalo.
I didn't get like super. I didn't paint my face or anything, but like I wore the FUBU and I listened to the music.
So I remember listening to.
I didn't go to the gathering or anything.
I remember listening to their big kind of single that came out around that time, where he was like, "If you lose some weight, you look like Ricky Lake." I forget what that was.
Yeah.
But I love the one song they have, which
it's
I
like
think
the game show one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like Eminem's Guilty Conscience in that sense. But the song that I love from Insane Clown Posse is probably the song that Juggalos hate the most, which is the one that they did. It was like at the end of like their big album trilogy, and I think it was called like what was it called? But it was kind of like they give all praises to God in this song.
I think it was like there's like a video of them like in a white room, like seeing like.
Is that what it was? I don't know if there was a video.
The name of it, but I think I know what you're saying.
It was called The Something, man. I can't think.
Exactly what you're talking about. I just can't think of it.
I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
But man, I'm not like really like a religious guy whatsoever. Yeah. I would consider myself to be spiritual, but I really like that song. It's a fucking dope song, and like the chant they do at the end. Kind of like it gives me goosebumps.
I vaguely remember because I think when that one came out is when I started like phasing out of them and I kind of got over it.
I think a lot of people did. I think they lost a lot of their core fans that were into the wicked shit.
Yeah,
and that was not wicked whatsoever. It was like almost religious.
Yeah,
but it's a really good song, man. I'd encourage you guys to watch it or to listen to it. But yeah, so shout out ICP, Twisted. I don't know how we got in this tangent, but anyway, back to Secret Wars.
Jamie Madrox is how we got there.
Yeah, we got this. Comics will bring you down this rabbit hole, man.
Dude, sure.
But yeah, so I mean, first of all, I think Secret Wars, Battle World, that whole thing it's going to do a couple of things. I think you'll have Doom already established. You'll get this God version of Doom. You'll get this big crossover Infinity War type of movie, which is what Marvel Studios seems to want to do. But I think they're going to really, I think they're going to introduce Miles as, I think they're going to introduce the Ultimate Universe through those movies.
Be cool.
Because
I got down with some Ultimate Fantastic Four when they came out.
Well, I think the biggest thing is going to be the Ultimates and casting fan favorite actors as this alternate version of the Avengers or the Ultimates. So like Tom Cruise as Iron Man and whoever the hell else as Thor and Cap.
Kind of like what they did with what's his name in Doctor Strange. They had John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and then just killed him. I feel like that was very much just a fan service. Everyone wanted that to happen.
Yeah, but see, it's crazy. It's fan service, but it's not because you gave us John Krasinski Reed, but you killed him off, and now we know he's definitely not going to be the Reed in the movie.
I think that I would be okay with him continuing to be.
Me too.
Reed Richards.
There was this funny movie or something that I saw about the new trend in the MCU is to spaghetti everyone, and they did it in the Loki.
Yeah, they did it in Loki a lot. Yeah,
spaghetti. That was a whole season of spaghettiing people. But to your point though, I don't think Secret Wars is as iconic as the Infinity Gauntlet because we got to remember the MCU brought in so many casual fans like us. We were not like diehard readers.
No, for sure.
Like you haven't read Hickman's Secret Wars, so you're not going to be as invested into that storyline. But
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I always try to remember that it's got to be really hard for them to make these movies because not only do you want to appease the diehard fans who know everything about the origins, but you also have to appease all these new fans, and you also want to get new people too. Yeah, so it's hard to make everybody happy.
I think their problem is that I think that they're not content with the demo that they had, and they had this idea of getting everybody. How do we get everybody? And I don't think you're ever going to please everybody.
Yeah.
And when you please this one sector, you're gonna piss off this other one.
Let's say because everyone said like the Miss Marvel, like it's like a little kid. That's because it's about a little teenage girl. I mean,
right. So yeah, to that point, you shouldn't hate Avengers because you didn't like Miss Marvel. But if they try to take Miss Marvel and make her the head of the Avengers, you're gonna piss off the Avengers fans. So I think there could be a balance there where you make. I want to say She-Hulk, but honestly, like I don't feel like women really rush to the TV screen to watch She-Hulk. So at the end of the day, who was it really for? Like, it wasn't for this demographic, and then you pissed off the original fan base. But Miss Marvel, I think there's more of an argument for the younger generation, young kids, young girls, whatever. Because I tried to watch that, and I was like, okay, this is not for me.
Yeah, but I started watching, and the only reason I finished it was just because I felt like I had to.
Well, because I think
it was the greatest.
They kind of use her and still use her to bring in the mutant aspect to the MCU, which is kind of like I want to say it's an unfair kind of tactic to try to get the general audience in there, but I guess, maybe it's smart on their end. But yeah, I feel like you can make Miss Marvel, but if you keep it there and not have it kind of infringe on the X-Men property that you're playing, because you're going to piss off
you
fans.
can't piss off the X-Men people.
Really, FF and Fantastic Four is their last chance.
Yeah.
If you fuck that up, I think it's really going to be over with.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, we talk about Aquaman and Aquaman 2 and how, I think it's projected to perform even worse than the Marvels at the box office, which is crazy because, again, coming off a $1 billion movie, both of them, and then to have these lackluster performances. But there is a lot of light at the end of the tunnel with DC, funny enough, with James Gunn.
Oh, yeah.
Doing
he's taken over now, pretty much, right?
He's basically the Kevin Feige of DC.
So what is his... So did he have anything to do with Aquaman 2 then?
No.
James Gunn,
So
or no?
Aquaman 2...
It was already in production before he got on?
Yeah. I think this is the last movie released by DC...
Before James Gunn?
him.
Okay.
Although...
So what's slated to be his first
Superman
thing?
Legacy.
Okay.
Superman Legacy, which apparently is going to borrow a lot of from Superman for All Seasons, which I have the absolute up there, which is kind of like a grounded Superman take, more of Clark Kent and being Superman on Earth, not so much a big cosmic brouhaha, which makes sense. I mean, you don't want to go super out there with the first movie. You probably should build up to that. But it seems like it's going to be a grounded Superman. I don't know. He's got a long road ahead of him. We already had like the Man of Steel, here's the new universe. Yeah. And now we're already on a reboot. I don't know. And so you're not even a DC guy, so you're probably a little...
I enjoy some of the... Like, I really like the Matt Reeves Batman. Was it Matt Reeves that did it?
No, Robert...
with Robert Pattinson?
Robert Pattinson. Oh, Matt Reeves is the director.
Matt Reeves is the director, yeah. Sorry, I relate things to film.
No, I feel yeah. So I watched that again.
I really liked that
on the plane. When
but
I was
again,
going.
I don't have a whole lot of knowledge of the Riddler or that version, because in that
version of the Riddler sucked, man.
Batman. See, I liked it because I don't know the Riddler.
Well, Jim Carrey, the Riddler.
I was just gonna say that's the only Riddler I know is Jim Carrey.
But I like that Riddler more than this Riddler. That Riddler was
Is the Riddler supposed to be really off the wall like Jim Carrey portrayed him in the movie? Like, is that what the Riddler in the books is like?
He's definitely. I think he's more Jim Carrey than the version that we got in the Batman.
Because in this movie, he's only supposed to have been Batman for like 2 years or so. He's still kind of new at being Batman, right?
Yeah, I mean, this Riddler was killing people violently. Yeah. He was kind of, I guess, what you would call an incel. I didn't really like that take on it. But the Riddler in the comics, he's not formidable physically, but he does come up with these elaborate things, with like riddles and things like more of like the Arkham series games. Riddler.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Which is dope. Like he's leaving all these. He was the main antagonist for the first 2 games. I feel like, wasn't he?
I think
Arkham
so.
Asylum and Arkham City. But I don't know where they go with that. I mean, the Catwoman thing, I like how they went the gangster route with the villains. I think they did a good job of like Gotham's underbelly, because that's a big part of Batman comics.
Oh, for sure.
Maroni and all these guys.
Falcone,
Maroni, all this shit. So the gangster aspect and like kind of the Penguins lounge, although the Penguin, so he gets a lot of praise. What's the actor's name? I always forget because he's so...
Colin Farrell.
Yeah, it's so not Colin Farrell.
See, I always like to relate things to other things. He played Bullseye in Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
Yeah. That's a good video to make. Like, actors that have played multiple comic
I always think of that. Like, one
characters.
of my favorites is... Because one of my favorite movies ever is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Jim Carrey?
Mark Ruffalo is in it, who played Hulk. Jim Carrey, who was in Kick-Ass and Riddler. And then you have Kirsten Dunst in it, who was Mary Jane. Yeah. And then, who else?
Well, you always see that, like...
What's his name? I can't think of his name. He was in Sin City. He played the character with the white glasses.
I don't remember. I remember watching it and I read that, too.
There's so many people that were in superhero movies later or before. Like.
Yeah, but it hits even harder when they were superheroes, and then they're again superheroes in a different movie. Like you mentioned Kick-Ass, and you have him also playing Quicksilver. Yeah. And then like they have these relationships between actors that they had relationships in other universes. Yeah. It's kind of a fun, geeky thing to put together. I could see as like a film kind of head.
Well, that's one thing I was going to mention earlier when you were saying, like, with all these movies like kind of tanking now, the comic movies. I said, look what's doing really good right now. Have you seen the new Godzilla?
So I haven't.
It's getting a lot of praise and making big money. So good.
I was thinking it. So our kaiju movie is going to be all the rage.
That might be it, man. Because I tell you, I love Godzilla. My kid loves Godzilla. We're super into Godzilla. We love Mothra.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I really need to go see. Was it Godzilla minus one?
It's so good.
I really, and that had like a relatively small budget. I think we need to shrink the budgets.
Yeah.
Let's not put so much stress on the VFX guys.
Yeah, focus on the story.
Let's get in on the story. So, is there not a lot of Godzilla in the movie? I don't like when
There's
they do that.
I mean, you could have made the film without Godzilla and just changed the tragedy to something else.
Oh, I see.
It's very much a story about the main character.
Okay.
That's happening to him during Godzilla's attacks.
I see.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
But people are still saying a lot of great things about
really
it.
Good.
So yeah, and you know, they were trying to put together this monster verse, which it didn't really. I don't know if they're still trying it,
I think.
Because they have the new King Kong.
Yeah, Godzilla X Kong or whatever.
So they didn't already do the Godzilla Kong movie?
They did Godzilla vs Kong. Yeah, that was the last one. Now this one is another one.
They did do it. That's
where there's
right.
another ape that's the villain. And like something's happened in the middle. I think they're going with this route. They're going way too Middle Earth with it, like
literally, like journey of the center of the movie.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to most of it's going to take place.
They did that in the last movie too. I think.
Yeah, that's how they went there for the first time. And they like revitalized Godzilla. Like this new one now, there's speculation that Shimura is going to be another villain that's being like hinted towards, but she's the one that has like the ice control. There's a bunch of little things, teasers in the trailer.
They got to kind of cross over. I feel like with like Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Or something where you have humans with big mech suits.
That'd be
I could
cool.
see that taking over. But see, I don't know. Is it going to have a run like the MCU? I don't know. And we've already had the Kaiju era in pop culture.
Yeah, we had, what was that one? The handheld one that they did, Cloverfield. And they went and did
I never saw the one that...
They really went off the wall with that one. Because then the second installation of that...
It wasn't promoted as a sequel.
No, it was like... this dude like captures another girl underground and like is holding her captive.
Dude from The Big Lebowski.
Towards the end, that you find out, it's happening during Cloverfield.
What's his name again?
And then the third Cloverfield installation is like in outer space or something. I haven't even watched it.
I'm drawing a blank on his name. The guy who married to Roseanne.
John Goodman.
No, is it?
Yeah, John Goodman, right?
Maybe it is.
Does that sound wrong?
It does sound wrong.
Now you're questioning me. It sounds wrong.
It does sound wrong. It might be.
He
was Fred Flintstone.
right?
Yeah, I think it is John Goodman.
Yeah.
I want to say John Hanks.
He's the dad in Coyote Ugly too, right?
I didn't see that one. What other obscure movies did he play in, right?
That's the thing. I always get a lot of slack from all my friends I went to film school with because I watched a lot of obscure movies, but then like I've never seen like movies that I should have seen. Like I've never seen any of the Godfather movies.
I've seen them,
but I was like, how do you be a film person and not watch Godfather?
And I'm big into gangster movies and mob movies, but I'm not really a big Godfather guy. Yeah. I think I've seen them all maybe one time each. But for me, like Goodfellas and Casino are the top.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, yeah, I don't want
Funny
it.
like a clown.
Yeah, classics. And then I like even like the Paid in Full. I kind of said that name earlier, but that's like one of my favorite kind of drug movies.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out.
Oh, that one's great, man. And
so
based on a true
story.
story.
My favorite drug movie, I think like Snatch.
I don't know if I caught Snatch. I think if you're talking drug movies, you got to go Blow.
Yeah.
You got to go.
Well, I guess Snatch wouldn't really be a drug movie. I don't think about it.
Or even Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a come up movie. But you know, so you know, I think we need to go because I think we're suffering from a lot of like lack of creativity in movies.
For sure.
And it's evident in the comic book movies. Okay, they're basically using scripts that have been around for decades.
Yeah.
And then you have only remakes essentially being made. Like
you're getting remakes of remakes.
Remakes of remakes. Like it's almost like our generation that grew up on these movies don't have any new creativity in us.
But at the same time, it's really hard to be totally original with something in this era.
Why though?
So much has been put out.
But in the 80s and the 90s,
you think of that, you thought, I got this great idea. I bet you, in a way, it's been done.
Yeah, it's like
it's
one
really
of those.
Hard to be truly original without being too off the wall.
It's one of those things like, oh yeah, just make a new comic book character. But it's like, dude, we've done it all.
Yeah.
So I think the next wave has got to be new creativity somehow, man. And I think forcing smaller budgets could help that.
Like I said, focus on storyline.
Because now you got to focus on that.
That's like one thing I was going to mention. I really enjoyed that I watched lately. Blue Eye Samurai. Did you watch that? On Netflix?
I have not. No,
dude, so good. It's anime.
I was going to ask you. So, are you into anime at all?
Not really. This is something I recently got into was that anime. Because I watched that, I started watching a couple other ones. But yeah, Blue Eye Samurai is super good. I think you'd like it.
I have to check it out, man.
I think it's like 6 or 8 episodes on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm not really a big into anime. I dabble into manga because I'm a comic fan, and there's so much great story out there with manga.
Every time I mention that, everyone's like, "Oh, you gotta see Berserk."
Berserk.
Demon Slayer. Those are the first two things I hear: is Demon Slayer, Berserk,
and Chainsaw Man. I think those are all kind of like
too.
easily accessible reads or shows to watch.
Yeah, and not to sound like I'm not like a sick or twisted person or anything.
No, they're dark.
I really, that's what I'm saying. I like that over the top. Like I like Quentin Tarantino. Like he's very over the top, violent. Like I like that stuff.
Well, there's terms I learned, but now I forgot it. But there's a term for like the kiddie kind of anime, and then like the adult, like darker anime. And now I think being a fan of that is totally normal. To me, with Berserk, what I like about the dark nature of it is that the stakes are so high.
Oh, yeah.
The worst things in the world that can happen do happen to people.
No, I've heard people tell me certain things about it.
Yeah, and it's like
I don't even want to repeat to my kids.
Yeah, exactly. But to me, it's like it's the ultimate motivation for this main character to get his revenge. And the demonic nature of Berserks, when I first was reading it, I was almost like, as somebody who's more on the spiritual side, I'm like, damn, I feel kind of wrong reading this, man.
I need to go pray.
Yeah, for real, man. But there's a lot of great stuff out there. I think Chainsaw Man is just enough of like immature, like teenager stuff, but it also great animation, great graphics, or great, great art.
My son's super into One Piece right now. He's all about One Piece.
So the thing I was going to say about that, the thing about like Dragon Ball and One Piece, there's so much there. Even though you start at Volume 1 or Episode 1, there's 1,000 freaking episodes, or Naruto, or any of those kind of established brands. With Berserk, there's 14 hardcovers, but I mean that's not that daunting.
Yeah.
Or even Chainsaw Man just started, so there's really only. They did 11 trade paperbacks, and now I think the 12th one is like essentially Arc 2 or what have you. So that's relatively new. Actually, I just picked up one. I'm hearing a lot from this Korean. It's not called manga. There's a term for it. My daughter told me, but it's solo leveling. So when I was in Singapore, my guy Johnny was like, "Dude, you gotta read this shit." So I got Volume 1 is probably at the doorstep right now because I Amazon Primed it.
That's what it's called Solo Leveling? Is the name of the...
Solo Leveling is the name of the manga. And I think it's it's the first ever like Korean manga to be adapted by Japanese studios for an anime. So supposedly it's a big deal.
Dang, I'll have to check that out.
All right, man. So, damn, I didn't realize we've been going on for 2 hours here. I'm not sure how the edit is going to affect us or not. But, Dave.
We have to make a two-parter.
I didn't even really get to ask you as much as I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't live too far. Maybe we can always do this again.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you like Dave as a guest, let us know in the comments down below. If you think he sucked.
Yeah, let me know.
He's not coming back.
I can take criticism.
No, but appreciate all the support, man.
No,
like you said, you've been following me on Instagram before the YouTube, and I guess I didn't want to bring it up because I could come off as very vain, and I don't want to talk about me. But I really like hanging out and talking with people that have kind of seen this growth from the beginning.
No, that's definitely me.
Yeah. I have a couple of friends like that too, and it's like, man, like I felt like you shared it with me because people just found me.
I feel that way. Yeah. I mean, I'm at home. I mean, not to be like sound weird about it, but I'm at home. I tell my kids like, oh man, Gem just got 100,000 subscribers. Yeah, they're like, what? Like,
no, and I feel the same way too because I don't know what it looks like from the outside, but I know what it was like. And the people that were around during that time, I feel like we share this bond. Like, yo, you've seen, only a few people have seen it with me, at the same time. Yeah. So I think that's super cool. And thank you for hanging out the whole time.
Man. Thanks for having me.
Driving here. We're going to go grab lunch.
Yeah.
Our treat. The least we could do, you made this fucking trek, 5-hour commute.
No, 5 hours. Oh, I guess going back would be a total one.
Yeah. But, definitely, thank you so much for everything,
sure, and thanks for having me.
And hopefully, we do it again sometime.
For sure.
All right, guys, appreciate you watching the Gemcast episode 2. We're probably gonna release this in clips first, and then you'll see the whole thing, and we'll be working on the next one. Stay minty fresh. Peace.